The story begins with a sleepy boy seeing a door in front of him, flying in the air. He cautiously approached them and began to examine them, believing it to be some kind of magic or hallucination. Realizing that there should be nothing behind it, the boy, with trembling hands, grabbed the doorknob, and without expecting it, he began to be abruptly sucked into an unknown place. Trying to resist, the boy held onto the ground with his hands. Suddenly, in the doorway, he saw a corridor that had not been there before. Entering it, he immediately felt how dark it was and asked if anyone was there. Suddenly, he heard strange sounds and immediately saw the monster that was making them. Looking at his appearance, the boy, without hesitation, rushed to run away. Closing the door, he apologized to the monster for disturbing him and said goodbye to him, hoping never to see him again. But the next moment, when he was back on the bed, he saw that the door had disappeared. Immediately after that, he heard a voice congratulating him on gaining the ability to connect the entire world into one. The boy nervously looked around, hoping to find someone who was talking to him. The voice continued to say that he was trapped, so he could not show his account, and he warned the boy to follow his advice if he did not want to die. Without explaining anything to the boy, he loudly told him to take the backpack and take the relic from there. The boy did indeed find a cursed statue of the Spirit King there, which someone had specifically thrown at him to destroy him and take his soul. Throwing the statuette away from him, the boy's memories of finding himself in the body of a schoolboy, Shen Ye, suddenly began to return. The boy gradually regained memories of his soul being burned by the statue. In his past life, he died due to rebirth, and his soul moved to another dimension and took over this body. And since he was not destroyed by the ancestral curse of the statuette, he will gain incredible power. After that, the voice told him to knock on the gate again, and after his words, the statuette crumbled in the boy's hands. Explaining, the voice said that the boy had gained the ability to unite the world into one whole, and noted that the gate remembered how polite he had been last time. The guy actually saw a message in front of him telling him to be polite, and also heard a voice telling him not to use the statuette, as they would realize he had survived and try to destroy him again. When the boy asked why he was doing this and told him all this, the voice replied that it needed him while he was still alive. Then the voice began to tell that the boy had fallen into a world of traps, precisely because of which he himself had fallen into a trap. The next moment, the voice began to fade, but the boy heard that the man asked him to help get him out of there, and that he would give him a reward for it. Left alone, Shen Ye first decided to think things over, and only then enter the gate to verify the truth of the words. But in the end, he still decided to go back through the gate, trying not to worry because that monster was still there. The guy hoped that he would be able to conclude a treaty with him and together confront the enemies. But when he re-entered the gate and saw the size of the monster, his confidence abruptly vanished. Trying not to show his fear, the guy continued to be polite and introduced himself. The skeleton continued to stare at him silently, making sounds again. Meanwhile, the boy continued to talk politely to him. But the next moment, the boy realized that the monster was unfriendly, as he barely survived, barely having time to move back. Shen Ye was very shocked and frightened by the monster's power. Meanwhile, he was getting closer and closer to him. Trying to stay away from the skeleton, the man stumbled and fell back onto the bed. Realizing that the gray title he had obtained through politeness was not working, he became angry. But the next message that the title could be obtained once a day, and he had already used up his attempt, irritated him even more. Remembering the words that death could come to him at any moment, Shen Ye resolutely set out to enter the gate again, and remembering his salesman skills, the guy tried to be polite again. But in response, the skeleton was still aggressive. Realizing that his words had no effect on the monster, the boy gave up his attempts, and already telling the truth that he wouldn't be able to devour him since he was in two worlds, Shen Ye suggested that he just talk to him. The skeleton, still continuing to glare at the boy, calmed down a little. But the boy, seeing that he was about to leave, asked him not to do so. Suddenly, he saw that the skeleton was injured and missing several bones. Realizing this, he said that people have special pills to make bones grow back. And for the first time in all that time, the skeleton spoke to the boy and confirmed his words. Still using his salesman skills, the guy took out his phone and showed off pills that would improve the condition of his bones. And trying to stay alive, the guy suggested that he get better supplements so that they could become friends. Not receiving any answer from the skeleton, the boy decided to ask again. But instead of agreeing, he saw the skeleton again about to destroy him. Holding on to the door, the boy realized he needed to think of something else. Suddenly, he saw the contract in front of him and saw a message that he was able to sign the contract. Not expecting that he would succeed, Shen Ye was very surprised. After reading who exactly he had signed the contract with, The guy was surprised by the unusual name. The skeleton talked about how it would be an equal exchange, and he hoped it would help him regain his strength. Continuing to look at the contract, Shen Ye decided to sign it. Seeing that he was called a man who had overcome the curse of evil spirits and who could travel between two worlds, the boy was overjoyed, not expecting that it all concerned him. And as soon as he signed it, he heard a voice saying that the contract had been signed. Meanwhile, in one of the houses, parents tried to surround their son Shen Ye with care after the hospital. For a boy who had been an orphan his entire past life, it was unusual for someone to care about him. Suddenly, they all heard a knock on the door. It turned out to be the police who came to them regarding the Shen Ye case. But before that, the policemen expressed their joy that the boy had managed to recover. The words about Shen Ye made the boy very angry. After all, he knew that in reality, Shen Ye was killed by a family curse. The guy was upset that someone who encounters something like this can't do anything and just follows their fate. The police did not respond to his words. But in the end, one of them decided to back up his words and said that he had information for him. He said that the hospital would be temporarily closed and there would be no more similar cases and victims. Meanwhile, Shen Ye couldn't help but notice his shoulder straps, seeing that he was a captain at such a young age. At that moment, the policeman tried to calm him down, saying that he was still a schoolboy and that he hardly had any enemies. After talking to the guy, the police said it was time for them to leave. Seeing their fear, he realized that the Spirit King was so powerful that neither the police nor the government could do anything. But remembering that he was a simple schoolboy, he did not understand who had thought of sending such a curse upon him. Suddenly, he saw the captain in front of him, who still hadn't left, so he asked if something had happened. Without answering his question, the policeman silently handed him his business card. And finally, he said that if anything went wrong, he could call him. Shen Ye looked at the captain silently, holding his business card in his hands. Sitting on the sofa, the guy believed that there were still good people left in the police, but he didn't know if he could be trusted and if he could help him in any way. And besides, everyone knows he's alive, so the killer definitely won't give up yet. And remembering the faces of his family, he realized that they could also have taken part in this. Assuming this, the boy realized that he needed to become stronger, and immediately after that, he opened the gate in front of him. And when he entered, he once again put on the salesman's smile. Calling the skeleton a skull, the boy asked if he was still here. Seeing his green eyes in the darkness, Shen Ye said that he had brought him the promised pills. Suddenly, he heard the skeleton say, "Finger." Not understanding what the skeleton was trying to say, he assumed that it wanted to take the pills. Suddenly, a message appeared in the air that he had fulfilled his part of the contract. And immediately after that, in exchange for his help, the skeleton gave him a crystal. Holding it in his hands, Shen Ye was very happy to have received a crystal with which one can gain new knowledge and skills. Suddenly, the crystal shattered into many fragments, and immediately he received a message that he had learned the elven technique. Shen Ye immediately felt himself becoming stronger. Meanwhile, the skeleton was taking all the pills out of the package, and the next moment, the skeleton disappeared into the darkness, leaving only its green eyes. Shen Ye didn't understand why he hid, because they had signed a contract and fulfilled all the conditions. Trying not to get his head stuck, the guy decided to learn the technique first. But suddenly, he heard a knock on the door. Suddenly, he heard a voice saying that he didn't expect him to survive. And turning to the window, he saw a man standing upside down, the one who said she would deal with it herself. And immediately after that, the man flew into the room. However, Shen Ye, who had managed to activate his attribute, was no longer so weak, and the man couldn't help but admit it. Shen Ye didn't expect the killer to appear so quickly and try to kill him again. So he decided to activate his politeness again. But seeing the man's intentions, he realized that it was futile. Suddenly, he received a message that the crystal was the lowest skill and therefore would be of almost no help to him. The man, trying in every way to destroy the boy, took out his gun, believing that he would not be able to escape from him. Shen Ye himself understood that things were very bad for him, and just when he least expected it, he received a message that he was capable of absorbing skills. And without hesitation, the guy immediately took advantage of this opportunity to stay alive. And the next moment, a green glow surrounded him. Not far away, both men saw a gate. The man, not knowing what was in front of him, decided to enter them. Seeing complete darkness before him, the killer assumed that this was a secret room. Meanwhile, Shen Ye, knowing what awaited him, had already said goodbye to him, and the next moment the man saw before him the green glow of the skeleton's eyes, which were approaching him incredibly quickly. Shen Ye, standing on the other side of the gate, calmly listened as the skeleton fed on the man to restore its strength. Realizing that he had even less time left, he decided that he needed to find someone who could protect him. Suddenly, he received a message that he was able to please his contract partner, and for this, he received a crown of pale shadow and a silver badge. Not expecting the deal to be so profitable, the guy immediately decided to try on the crown, and as soon as he did this, he realized that he had immediately become an elf. Suddenly, Shen Ye heard a knock on the door again and assumed it was the murderer again, but his doubts were immediately dispelled when the man introduced himself as Chen Haoyu. Returning to his previous form, the boy remembered that he was Shen Ye's best friend, and as soon as he opened the door, his friend rushed at him with tears in his eyes. And at that moment, Shen Ye's mother entered them, unexpectedly returning. Looking out the door, the boy asked where his dad was, to which he received the answer that he had gone to buy pills for his grandfather. Chen Haoyu, who knew how expensive the rejuvenating medicine was, said that their family was not that simple. Finally, the guy said he wished him a speedy recovery as they had exams coming up. Shen Ye, who had just remembered that he was in the body of a schoolboy, realized what a mess he had gotten himself into. But his friend was upset because he had already failed one exam, but the boy's mother reassured him. Shen Ye knew that exams in this world were very different, as they still tested strength and agility, but the boy was worried that a manhunt had been declared for him, so it was dangerous for him to go to school. The mother, who thought her son was worried about exams, told him to calm down and said that it wasn't the most important thing in life. He knew he could have refused to take the exams, but he didn't want to do that to his mother. And besides, Shen Ye's memories of what his parents had done for him began to come back to him, so he simply couldn't let them down. The next day, the boy was already at school and trying to catch up on what he had missed. Suddenly, a guy approached him and said that Zhao Yibin was waiting for him in the hallway. Remembering that she was Shen Ye's friend, the boy approached the girl. The girl, who heard that the guy was going to take the exams, said that she had passed the first exam well and was also going to pass the next ones well. The guy sincerely congratulated her, but it only surprised the girl. But her next words about him not coming near her again surprised him even more. The school children, who were interested in school gossip, listened attentively to their conversation. Meanwhile, the girls said that they were at different levels, so it was better for them to each go their own way. The guy who missed just one exam didn't understand what was happening. Shen Ye, who didn't want to communicate with the girl, was even happy to hear the words and wanted it to be true. Meanwhile, the girl heard gossip that when the guy was the first, she ran after him. But as soon as he missed one exam, she immediately stopped communicating with him. Suddenly, Shen Ye saw tears in the girl's eyes, who said she thought they were friends. Her friend reproached him for the gifts his girlfriend gave him, but he said he would return all the gifts if she wanted. And showing her the middle finger, he said that he was not going to be friends with her. Shen Ye's behavior made Zhao Yibin's friend very angry, and she started calling him names. Others present were also for the girls, believing that the boy had broken the girl's heart. The girl, despite the screams of the others, wanted to explain everything to the boy, but she couldn't. Suddenly, a formidable man appeared in front of Shen Ye, who was not in a friendly mood. He stopped him and said that he hadn't finished Yibin yet. Shen Ye, ignoring his words, told him to step aside so he could go to class. But Sun Ming did not let him go, saying that during his absence, his strength had increased, so Shen Ye was no longer first in the class. Shen Ye tried to explain that it was the girl who started insulting him first, but then he realized that it was futile and asked him to move aside. But realizing that he wouldn't be allowed to leave, the guy eventually apologized to the girl. He told the girl that she could take as much of it as she wanted, and everything would be as she wanted. And with these words, he ran in the opposite direction, leaving the surprised girls and the boy behind. Everyone else was surprised to see tears in the boy's eyes, assuming he was very sick. Yibin tried to stop the guy, saying that she didn't want to force him and said that it was all because of Sun Min. Realizing that the girl was now offended by him, the guy decided to teach Shen Ye a lesson at all costs. So when he caught up with him, he tried to punch him, but the boy abruptly turned upside down, intercepting the hand. The school children watched them silently with their mouths open. While Sun Ming was trying to get his bearings, a kick flew in his direction. Now everyone has started actively discussing Shen Ye's incredible speed. Looking at them, Shen Ye asked what they needed, since he had already apologized. Suddenly, they were stopped by one of the teachers, who ordered them to prepare for the exams. The students, upset by the unfinished fight, were forced to go to class. But in the end, Sun Ming turned to Shen Ye and said that they weren't finished yet. After a while, during a warm-up, Shen Ye was approached by his best friend. He suggested that he go to the comic book store, because their turn wouldn't come soon. Hearing his words, the guy remembered that he had forgotten to take the note. So, citing the fact that his stomach hurt, he asked him to take his turn. After some time, at school, the boy approached the toilet. As it turned out, he had been watched all this time by a murderer who was waiting for the right opportunity. In his hand was a pen enveloped in a purple glow. But when he went inside, he saw that all the booths were empty, and he didn't understand where the guy could have gone. Meanwhile, Shen Ye tried on the elf crown again. He wanted to meet the skull, so he opened the gate in the corridor, in which he saw the killer's gun. Seeing that it was loaded, the guy decided that it would be a good means of self-defense. Even though he didn't find the skull, he knew it was time for him to leave. So he was about to leave, but suddenly he heard a sound. The voice said that it could do nothing for him now, so in the end, it decided to give him a gift. And immediately after his words, the guy teleported to another place. After a while, Shen Ye saw that he was in the forest. Holding his head, he assumed he was in the world of elves. The boy also held a blade in his hand, which gave him a mysterious voice. Suddenly, he heard a voice asking who was here, and within a few seconds, the other elves saw Shen Ye in front of them. But the elves were not surprised by his appearance, but on the contrary, they called him Phelan and asked where he had disappeared to, because they needed to complete a task. After apologizing, Shen Ye noticed that they also had crowns of pale shadow, and realized that they were also fake elves. Shen Ye replied that he was ready to destroy the head of the elven tribe, and at the same time wanted to fix his crown. But the shouts of other men stopped him, telling him not to touch her. One of them said that he should not even dare touch the crown, because then their true faces would be exposed, and they would be destroyed. Realizing where he had ended up, he assumed that the skeleton itself had previously been Phelan, but now it was him. Realizing that they already had to go to the settlement to the elves, one of the men told Phelan to hurry. Shen Ye, despite his strength, could barely keep up with the elves, who were running very fast. And when it got dark, the elves finally reached them. But to enter, they needed to show their orders. But what surprised Phelan the most was that he was the one who had to kill the leader. With a nervous smile on his face, he pointed at himself and asked if he really had to do this. The men, seeing the fear and doubt on his face, tensed up greatly. Realizing that he had no other choice, Phelan drew his blade and confirmed his intent to kill, because he understood that if he refused, they would simply destroy him. Shen Ye, along with the others, approached the gate and thought about how the skull had deliberately given him the crown so that he would kill the head. Meanwhile, one of the elves ordered them to show the order so he could pass, and when he was sure of their identities, he was going to lead them to the head. In front of them, the men saw a forest with a path made of planks in the middle. Alongside them, as they walked, they saw many elves with their children, and after a while, the elf led them to the door and said that the chief already knew about their visit. Shen Ye, hearing that he was told to leave and that they would wait for him, realized that he would not be allowed to escape. The guy didn't understand how he could get into such trouble, but on the other hand, if he completed the mission, he would gain supernatural power. So, without hesitation, he opened the door and stepped inside, letting the moonlight into the room. In front of him, he saw the head of the elves, who, without even turning around, continued to read a book. But eventually he got distracted and said he was glad to see a soldier from the front lines. Since the gates through which one could travel had the ability to characterize characters, he immediately saw how much had been written about the elven leader. And looking at his description, he saw only one attribute: polite person. Realizing that even the 3 men who were with him did not dare to kill him, he realized that he would not be able to do it either. Continuing to shake with fear, he promised himself that he would never forget this vile act from the skull. Meanwhile, the elf leader thanked the soldier for his work and told him he could rest. Taking the chance to teleport to another location using the gate, he did just that. And in a moment, he found himself at a festive banquet among other elves. There were people at the banquets discussing their goals. As he bit into his food, Shen Ye realized that if he did nothing further, it would lead to inevitable death. Suddenly, a girl unexpectedly approached him and asked him to dance. The girl said that it was a great honor for her to dance with a frontline hero. Shen Ye would have danced with her all his life, but he understood that his accomplices would not let him do it. After the dance, the girl tried in every way to get the guy talking. And finally, only after the dance did the girl introduce herself to Lenny. And as a thank you for the dance, the girl decided to immediately give him a gift. And she did it right away, saying that he danced quite well. Suddenly, the elf gathered at the table and decided to show everyone a trick. He said that he was human, so he would be able to change his form and appearance. The elves, who had never seen humans before, were intrigued by his words. But his accomplices were not very happy with this turn of events, not understanding what Phelan was doing. He told everyone to watch and at the same time removed the crown from his head. He threw it straight towards Lenny, who was staring at him in fascination. All the elves were delighted with the boy's trick. And right after that, the guy said that he could always become a human when he took off his crown. And pointing to his accomplices, he said that they could also do such a trick if they also removed the crown. But he added that if they removed the crown, they would become not human, but evil spirits. In an instant, the smile on the elves' faces disappeared, and they looked aggressively at the boys. And the very next moment, spears were pointed in their direction, threatening to remove the crown. Meanwhile, the boy was already opening his gate to leave the elves, who didn't want it so much. While the elves' hands tried to hold him back, Shen Ye said goodbye to Ms. Lenny. And the next moment, there was emptiness in the boy's place, which again surprised the elves. But the most upset was Mrs. Lenny, who really enjoyed spending time with the boy. Meanwhile, the evil spirit was already bound by vines and could not get out. Suddenly, an unknown force pulled them even further into the vines. He said it was ironic because they didn't expect the person to work for two parties. One of the evil spirits tried to deceive again, saying that it was not true, and they even had orders. But the next moment, the crown was removed from his head, and his true nature was revealed. The head immediately guessed that the crown had concealment magic, so he couldn't help but admit that it was brilliant. And even though Shen Ye wasn't around, he said he owed him. Everyone turned in the direction the leader was looking, but they saw no one there. Meanwhile, the boy in the hallway tried to catch his breath, realizing that he should be more careful. Suddenly, the boy saw a skeleton he had never expected to meet again. Shen Ye immediately started yelling at him that while he was barely surviving there, he was banking here. The skeleton, who was surprised that he was still alive, spoke to him in human language for the first time, thereby making it clear that he had understood him perfectly all this time. The skeleton tried to ask the boy how he managed to survive, but the boy had no intention of doing so. Showing his middle finger, he read the message that the contracting partner's party wanted to give him a gift. But this angered the guy even more, who wasn't going to sell himself to him. The skeleton, giving the boy a crystal of terrible imitation, said that if he had gone instead of him, he would have already died. Hearing how useful and valuable this crystal was, the boy decided to forgive the skeleton, but for the first and last time. Suddenly, the skeleton suddenly found itself on a broken throne, surrounded by a purple glow. At the same time, 3 different things flew towards the boy, from which he had to choose one. The skeleton said he could choose any talent and appropriate it for himself. Dark Whisper is used to ask or call upon the dead who may have something to say. The holy skeleton body will help avoid death, but only for a while. Reviving the dead can bring anyone back to life. Looking at them all, the boy analyzed which one would be most useful to him, and grabbing the green crystal, he realized that only by possessing information could he destroy the enemy. And at that moment, the purple glow in the room changed to green. The skeleton was genuinely surprised by the guy's choice. After all, in his memory, none of them chose the first subject, only the third. And now it's time to tell exactly how he managed to survive. After hearing the story, the skeleton said that the elf should have been the primary victim, and when he learned that the 3 evil ones were now in the captivity of the elves, he realized that they would threaten him and realized that this was his last chance. And with these words, he left the surprised boy without explaining anything. Shen Ye, trying not to clutter his head with other people's problems, decided to deal with his own first. And without expecting it, he received the attribute Independence. Seeing that it was already green quality, the boy was delighted. At the same time, a bracelet appeared on his arm, given to him by Lenny, which will increase his intelligence. And already while walking around the school, he realized that he needed to hide the bracelet away from others. And after a while, it was his turn to show his skills. His friend tried his best to pass the test. Shen Ye tried his best to support Chen Haoyu. Thanking for the support, the guy said that he would handle everything. But within a second, he missed one obstacle, and now he lost. The coach told the boy to be happy that this was not the real exam yet, and said that now it was Shen Ye's turn. The guy confidently stood at the starting line and waited for the start. And as soon as the start sounded, the boy immediately set off, bypassing all obstacles. The others present couldn't help but notice that the guy was acting relaxed and overcoming all obstacles, despite the fact that he had been in the hospital for a long time. Meanwhile, Shen Ye is glad that the obstacles were not so difficult. Meanwhile, 2 men were watching him. One of them, assessing his skills and abilities, said that he would give him a chance if he successfully passed the exam. Meanwhile, the guy had already completed and passed all the obstacles. Even the coach was moved, since the boy's result was the highest, and he himself felt sorry that the boy had missed the first exam. His friend offered him something to eat, but before that, Shen Ye suggested he go wash up. Meanwhile, the guy decided to go to the library to better prepare for the exams, but the amount of information gave him a headache. Suddenly, a kick scattered all his books and lifted Shen Ye's desk into the air. Upon seeing Sun Ming, the boy asked him if Zhao Yibin had told him to come to her. Hearing the question, the guy angrily told him not to even dare say her name. And in the presence of other school children, the boy suggested that he test his strength. Shen Ye, having activated the Independence skill, easily agreed to his proposal. Everyone else watched the unfolding events in amazement. Meanwhile, the boy activated the skills available to him. One of the school children, thinking that the boy would run away, began to hold him, while Sun Ming was running at him with the fist. And after a few seconds, the fist crashed straight into Shen Ye's stomach. But in a moment, Sun Ming himself withdrew his hand and could not hold back his screams of pain. While everyone was in shock, Shen Ye took the boy's hands that were holding him. After that, he threw him to the floor and punched him in the face. All the school children nervously watched the unfolding events. At this moment, Shen Ye became more afraid than Sun Ming. Meanwhile, Sun Ming sat on the floor, writhing in pain, cursing Shen Ye. And when the boy grabbed him by the collar, he apologized to him in return. Shen Ye hated him for humiliating and beating others there, thereby destroying their future. Therefore, pushing him away a few meters, he said that it was not so easy to get his forgiveness. Meanwhile, the entire school heard Sun Min's cries for help, but their fight was interrupted by the coach, who had recently given them an exam. The first thing he saw when he entered the classroom were the bodies of unconscious students writhing in pain. Despite the tears on the boy's face, the teacher said he wouldn't believe him because he knew he was the one who beat them. Zhao Yibin, who was also watching the fight, realized that she had miscalculated. She didn't even think that they wouldn't be able to handle Shen Ye. Looking at her phone screen, she said it wasn't over yet. Then, suddenly, her friend asked if she had any regrets. She was slow to answer the question, remembering that if she had continued to behave herself, they might still be friends. But now her goal has been achieved, because of the fight, Shen Ye will not be allowed to take the exams, and she will have no competitors left. The girl tried to reassure herself that she had a bright future, unlike him. And in the end, she answered her friend's question by saying that she had no idea what a scoundrel Shen Ye was. Suddenly, she saw that Sun Ming had come to his senses and was looking straight at her. Looking at the way he continued to look at her, the girl assumed that he wanted to drag her into all this as well, so she mentally told him to shut up and not open his mouth. The girl continued to look at him while he was being taken to the hospital, and immediately after that, she ran away in tears and screamed that she would call the police for what Shen Ye had done to Sun Ming. While the teacher was trying to resolve the situation without the police, the boy already guessed that the girl had made it all up so that others would hate him. After that, Teacher Jiang ordered everyone to leave, and Shen Ye told him to follow him. Meanwhile, the school principal was talking to Qian about how he should turn his attention to the other participants. Suddenly, a teacher came running up to them and told them about the fight, which didn't interest the principal at all. Not getting the desired reaction, the teacher decided to show a video of the fight, and the next moment, both men were watching the video with interest. The police, who did arrive at the school, were also surprised after watching the video. Shen Ye, who knew that something like this would happen, took precautions in advance and turned on the camera, thereby providing himself with an alibi. But one of the police officers said that despite having the video, he would have to go with them. Then the teacher came to the boy's defense, saying that the boy had already failed one exam and asked the police not to take away his chance. While the policeman and the teacher argued, Shen Ye hoped that his body would be able to adapt to the sudden changes in characteristics. At that moment, the principal entered the room and said that it was a good thing the boy had recorded the video, because he would have already been expelled from school. Suddenly, Mr. Qian joined the conversation, praising the boy and saying that these guys were not on his level. The man, after watching the video, realized that the guy didn't even try and use all his strength because he was afraid of killing them, and said that this was enough to get his letter of recommendation. So he said he wanted to discuss something with him and handed him his business card from the martial arts company of which he was the director. It was an organization that possessed the inheritance of various martial arts knowledge and also owned the ownership and copyright of martial arts secrets. In simple words, the guy will rise from the mud to the top and go to heaven. And looking at the man standing right in front of him, it seemed that he had no weaknesses at all. The man decided to ask the guys what specific scores he had. Thinking that this man was really strong and that perhaps the killers would get away with him, he said that his score was 5. This information surprised even the principal and teacher. Hearing the score, the man was pleased with what he heard, and so he said that thanks to a good test, he would receive his letter of recommendation. And he also offered to join their company, but for that, he had to pass the test again. And when Shen Ye happily agreed, the man was about to leave and said that he didn't care about the investigation and the test would be conducted at a time convenient for him. But in the end, Mr. Qian decided to inquire about his spiritual powers. Shen Ye, realizing that he couldn't be the best at everything, said that his score was 3. The gentleman even dropped his cigarette in surprise, but his entire face did not change. The director, like everyone else, couldn't remember that Shen Ye was some kind of genius, so they couldn't believe his words. The man immediately asked the boy to demonstrate his strength by asking him to move the chair. And the next moment, the boy easily controlled the chair in the air. While everyone, including the police, were looking at it in fascination, one of them said that it was a dead end. After all, seeing what he was capable of, he decided not to ruin the boy's future. This was helpful to the guy who could no longer hold the chair and put it back in place. Shen was so delighted with the boy's skills that he even hugged him and started singing. The principal and the teacher immediately began praising his singing. Ignoring their praise, the man asked them to go outside to talk to Shen Ye alone. Continuing to smoke, the man asked what exactly was ideal for him. Hearing the guy's words that he was his ideal, the cigarette fell out of his mouth again. But the man asked him to tell him what the boy dreams of most, to which he replied that he wanted to never be weak. Saying that he was now the closest he could get to his dream, the man asked to harm him. Without thinking, Shen Ye immediately began to insult him with bad words, to which he nervously replied that he needed to insult him with force. Smiling nervously, the boy prepared to attack. But just one glance from Qian in his direction could make him freeze in place. The man explained that it was a type of magical art that could immobilize an attacker, and by learning it, he would be able to defend himself. But saying that wasn't all, he took out a gun and asked him to look carefully. The boy watched in excitement as the man brought the gun closer to his head, and a moment later, a loud shot rang out. But to his surprise, the bullet was unable to penetrate his body because he was using a magical art that could withstand various types of weapons. And now the man did not hesitate and resolutely invited the boy to join their hidden dragon plan. And he said that he could study at the best schools that require passing special exams and access to which is only available to clans, because they are monopolized by clans. Qian explained that clans are those who inherited knowledge, sacred instruments, and universities from the ancient gods. After learning this information, he assumed that Shen Ye's grandfather belongs to one of the clans. The man said that he guaranteed that he would enter school even if he failed all the exams. And if he can enter school, he will receive support and all the necessary resources. And when he is no longer able to develop further, he will be respected and welcomed into the organization. Realizing that in this world, strength is the highest of all, he agreed to Qian's proposal. After receiving his consent, the man asked to sign the documents and put his fingerprint. Remembering that teachers always emphasize the possibilities of strength in lessons, he realized that they were right, since such people can change the universe. And finally, the man asked the boy to think again, as other organizations might offer him to join them. But the boy had already made a decision, which pleased the man who needed his parents' permission. And after that, Mr. Qian said goodbye to the guy because he needed to hurry so that other organizations wouldn't intercept him. And looking at him, he said that after signing the contract, he would return to him. And at that moment, a noticeable whirlwind appeared in the room, and the man disappeared into it. All this time, the principal and teacher nervously waited for the conversation to end next to them. The teachers, who were happy that their school had such a strong boy who managed to sign a contract with Mr. Qian himself, were very happy. Suddenly, he got a call from a police officer, Captain Doe from the station, who had learned the information. So he asked the guy to come to him. And after a while, the boy was at the station next to Mr. Lowe. After showing the man's photo, the police officer said that an anonymous person had sent them this photo of a man standing on the roof of the hospital when Shen Ye was also in the hospital. But no matter how hard the boy looked, he couldn't remember this person because he didn't know him. The police officer said that according to forensics, this man was trying to activate something. And when the policeman asked if the boy had anything unusual with him that day, the boy was very surprised. He immediately realized that the boy had activated the statue's curse, but it had crumbled, so he had no proof. And realizing that he was the only one who survived the statue's curse, he realized that he could not provide any information. This seemed strange to the policeman, so he asked if he had had any headaches, nausea recently, or memory lapses. Realizing that the man knew something, the boy replied flatly that nothing like this had ever happened to him. After all, as soon as he entered the office, he had the feeling that someone was watching him, and that one more word would be the end of him. So the guy decided to say that he remembered that his backpack was open, even though he remembered well that he closed it. With caution in his voice, the policeman asked if he had checked the backpack. Seeing that the captain was about to act, he said that he had forgotten about him and had only just remembered. And since he needed to be ready to escape at any moment, the boy activated his agility. But despite the fact that the captain could suppress his strength, the boy still decided to run away. Suddenly, a notification came to the captain's phone. Realizing that he needed to leave the office, the guy suggested that the man answer the call. The policeman, telling him not to even flinch, continued to look at him, and answered the call. Suddenly, his face changed dramatically as soon as he heard the warning that he would soon die. And at that very moment, the captain's body began to emit a bright red glow. Shen Ye assumed that it was an assassin and was about to attack the captain. Continuing to look at the policeman, the boy remembered that this was the very technique that Mr. Chien had been talking about. In the next moment, the policeman, breaking the window, jumped out into the street, and a moment later, a siren sounded, warning that an unknown entity had entered the station and asking everyone to find a safe place. Looking out the window, the boy saw the ocean in front of him, which surprised him greatly, since just a moment ago he had been near the police station. Looking back, he saw the man from the photo the policeman was showing him and realized that it was he who had called him. His assumptions were confirmed by the man's words that the captain had destroyed the members of their church and that he would answer for it. And in a moment, Shen Ye found himself back at the station, realizing that the captain had stayed with that man by the ocean. And as soon as he moved into the office, he felt as if a ghost was watching him. And at that very moment, his talent, the Whisper of Darkness, was activated. Suddenly, Shen Ye heard someone thanking him. Looking around, he tried to find who was talking to him. Meanwhile, the voice said that he didn't expect to be able to return to his body. And suddenly, Shen Ye recognized a very familiar voice. While the voice continued to sound, the boy, with trembling hands, opened the closet door, and inside he saw the wounded Captain Law. He immediately explained that the man in the photo had killed him, and it was he who assumed his appearance to infiltrate the police station. Shen Ye, unlike the captain, knew that the man was trying to understand how he managed to survive. Captain Law, learning that they had just been near the sea, explained that it was called an anomaly, when two worlds touch each other and one of them could take some people. When the boy asked what a disaster was, the man explained that it was a creature from another world that uses various techniques to suddenly appear in the main world. Suddenly, the policeman asked about the city of Wuxiangnan, which, according to legend, was razed to the ground by an earthquake. He explained that it is called an earthquake only for ordinary people, but in reality, it is one of the cases of disaster. Therefore, knowing about the anomalies that were occurring, he said that they had little time left and the killer would return soon. Hearing this news, the boy realized that he was in danger again. At the same time, the captain said that he needed to go to the third floor and get his weapon. But before that, the guy had to write down a huge password to gain access to the weapons room. And finally, before the soul completely left the policeman's body, he said that he needed to hurry in order to have time to protect himself. Looking at the now silent body, he understood why the police didn't want to take on a case that would cost them their lives. And finally, he put his cap on the captain and thought that the only thing he could do was follow all the captain's orders. And closing the closet door, he realized that right now, with his current strength, he wouldn't be able to avenge the captain. But in the future, he would do everything to make it happen. And so that the captain could rest in peace, he promised himself this. And suddenly a voice called out to him, informing him that an anomaly had occurred and that he was being asked to go downstairs. But after a while, police officers entered the room and said that we needed to follow them to undergo a search. After that, one of the policemen ordered the others to leave, saying that he would deal with Captain Luo and Shen Ye himself. Trying to lure the boy out, the policeman said he knew the captain had been taken by some inhuman force, but added that he was safe now. Hearing no response, the policeman continued walking around the station, and in order not to waste time, the policeman quickly searched the room. Ultimately, finding no one, the man assumed that Shen Ye had escaped. The man was furious that he was able to take the lives of many people, but could not cope with a 15-year-old teenager. Therefore, Captain Wang decided to act differently and announced to the other police officers that he suspected that Shen Ye was involved in this incident and ordered him to be detained. And as soon as the man left the room, a door appeared on one of the walls. Shen Ye, without leaving the door, was already convinced that the murderer had accomplices. Of course, the boy could stay in the world of horrors forever and be safe there, but then the criminals would not be punished. So he decided he needed to get up to the third floor and tell them all about it. After some time, the guy managed to get to the third floor through the window and saw that there was no one around him. Having found where the weapons were stored, the guy took out his piece of paper and began entering the password. Suddenly, the boy froze in surprise when he heard a voice behind him. It was Captain Wang, who asked the boy what was going on here. Continuing to write code, the guy said that the teacher gave him several problems to solve to prepare for the exam. But the policeman did not believe the boy's words, because he knew that next to them was an emergency device that connected the central control of the world. Realizing this, the policeman was about to stop the guy from entering the password, But he didn't have time to do it. Realizing that he had no other chance, he created a gate in front of him, intending to escape. The appearance of the gate left the policeman in a dead end, as he had not expected such abilities. Shen Ye is lucky that the gate reacts to environmental changes. Otherwise, he would have been dead a long time ago. Captain Wang, realizing that he would achieve nothing with conventional weapons, decided to use physical force and tried to destroy the gate. And the next moment, the gate was rapidly approaching Shen Ye. However, at the last moment, he caused the gate to fall apart. This angered the policeman even more, and he finally decided to finish off Shen Ye. And as soon as he was about to run into the guy, he immediately activated the gate, into which the policeman rushed with all his might. After that, numerous wounds appeared on the man's body, causing him to writhe and barely stand. By then, the guy had finished writing the password, and immediately after that, a siren sounded, triggered by artificial intelligence, which conducted a check of the station and determined that Captain Lo was dead and that Captain Wang was a fake person. Due to the excessive danger, they are approached by high-level specialists to capture Captain Wang. And immediately after that, an artificial intelligence voice sounded, saying that in 30 seconds, Captain Wang would be executed. But he replied that this would never happen. Realizing that there was some truth in his words and that this was a direct threat to him, the boy decided to open the gate and escape through it. Guessing about his crime, he grabbed his hand, preventing him from escaping. During the escape attempt, the countdown to the criminal's execution continued, and as soon as the man wanted to hit Shen Ye, he couldn't do it because he was protected by a layer. And the next moment, Shen Ye saw Mr. Qian in front of him. Shen Ye was glad to be alive and sincerely thanked the man for it. And already being in another office, the man said that he could take care of everything, but he had to tell the truth about the password, that it had come to him from Captain Law. Upon hearing how the boy learned the password, Mr. Qian said that the captain guessed that he was being pursued by an organization that was causing anomalies. Hearing this news, the boy felt even more sorry for the captain. Mr. Qian, lighting the cigarette, said that he was also sorry, as he had known him for some time and knew how he upheld justice, which was what ruined him. And he immediately added that he was lucky to stay alive because the hired killer almost killed him. Shen Ye, knowing how skilled the killer was, understood that this man was rich, but the men did not understand why they needed a 15-year-old schoolboy. Then Shen Ye asked about Kunlun and why he didn't ask him to help. Holding a cigarette, he explained that it was an intelligent government system that only worked when a person entered a password. And the man immediately explained that Captain Law had not asked him for help because he was unaware of the problems with the weapons. He then added that Captain Law's hand, which was his weapon, was infected with a virus, which made it impossible to launch. But as soon as Captain Law died, everything returned to normal. After that, he said that Shen Ye was now part of their team, and he would like to teach him a lesson today. And this lesson was that you should always be careful with people, because they can turn out to be real monsters. Shen Ye said he would never forget it. And finally, after putting out his cigarette, Mr. Qian said that he had already arranged to meet his parents, and that they were waiting for them. And as they were walking down the corridor, the guy asked what would happen to the people who remained in the anomaly, to which the man replied that more professional people would deal with them. And he argued his refusal to participate in this case by saying that he saw that the man had turned into a monster when he came out of the anomaly, but his appearance was fine. Suddenly, Mr. Qian stopped, remembering Captain Luo's name. He called one person and asked them to check Captain Luo's relationship with the girl Xiao Mengyu. And as soon as he received the information he needed, surprise and fear immediately appeared on his face. Looking at the man's reaction, the guy realized that this girl, who was unknown to him, was somehow connected to Captain Law. After a while, they all met together with Shen Ye's parents and started talking about agreeing to the contract. And after asking Mr. Qian to leave them alone to discuss the decision, the parents admitted that they belonged to a family from one of the clans. Shen Ye had guessed from the very beginning that the Shen family had ancient artifacts, and was not as simple as it seemed. His mother explained that one day his father lost his strength, so he left the family. And the reason for their quarrel with his grandfather was that he had already arranged an engagement for him when he was dating his mother. The father explained that his abilities already exceed those of ordinary people, and that if he asks, his grandfather will definitely accept him, and he will be able to use the best artifacts and all available resources. And saying that whatever choice he makes, they support him, but adding that if he chooses to join the organization, he will never be able to access family artifacts and heirlooms. Upon hearing this shocking news, the boy was very upset. And to his parents' surprise, the boy still decided to join the organization, thereby giving up a carefree life. After all, Shen Ye didn't want his parents to ask him anything and believed that he could handle it if his father could handle it too. Having made this decision, the boy decided to call Mr. Qian. After hearing the story, he remembered how they had visited that family several times, where only a few people were happy, while others looked at them with hostility. But the only happy moments back then were playing with his friends. And within a few minutes, Mr. Qian congratulated the boy and his parents on the successful signing of the contract. Meanwhile, Zhao Yibin tried to further disgrace the guy and had already published a scandalous video of him fighting. She continued to destroy the boy's future in order to become a goddess herself. She was already dreaming about how the guy's life would go wrong and he would become trash like Sun Ming, and then there would be a big gap between them. But the smile on her face was immediately wiped off, as she was unable to publish the material, and the site wrote a message stating that this was false information, and if she tried to do it again, they would sue her. Meanwhile, the director congratulated the boy on signing a contract with the organization early, which greatly raised the level of their school. Continuing to sit on the floor outside Sun Ming's chamber, the girl felt sad because she had almost succeeded. After a while, Mr. Qian said that he had even received 5 rewards for the murder, and that the culprits had already been caught. When the boy asked what the rewards were, the man explained that they were like currency to be exchanged for special items. But since he had not yet joined their organization at the time, he was left with empty pockets. But contrary to the man's words, the guy received a message on his phone that the management had adopted the incentive method, and that his reward had been sent to the company building. And after some time, upon arriving at the right floor, Mr. Qian said that he could feel at home and that he would be paid a certain amount of money every month. Suddenly, a girl appeared in front of him, introducing herself as Su Menglin and congratulating him on joining their company. She also added that she had prepared concert tickets for him and would be waiting for him. While watching the screen, the guy remembered that Shen Ye really liked this actress. Looking around the room, the boy couldn't help but notice that all the things were chosen to his taste. And going out onto the balcony, the guy couldn't help but admire the view. As he continued to stand, he realized that he needed to become stronger in order to pass the entrance exams. And after a while, the boy decided to enter the gate again. And the first thing he saw was the destroyed body of a skeleton. Wanting not to go inside, the boy remembered that he needed to enter properly so that it wouldn't affect his attributes. By then, the skeleton had noticed Shen Ye's presence and asked him for help, saying he was dying. Shen Ye nervously said that he was not a doctor and could not help him, and added that he did not have the medicine he had given him with him at the moment. Realizing that he was doomed to death, the skeleton even began to cry. Shen Ye, realizing that the skeleton could still be useful to him in the future, said he would try to help him. But when more than 2 hours had passed, the skeleton had already lost all hope of rescue. Suddenly, he saw a tired Shen Ye in front of him and asked what nonsense he was doing. Shen Ye, despite the skeleton's words, said that he spent all his money on a vat containing a solution that would help him recover. But to do so, he needed to climb inside. Suddenly, Shen Ye saw that the ceiling was beginning to collapse. The skeleton explained that humans and elves were approaching them, as there was a secret passage here, and outside was their cemetery, which the elves were attacking. Realizing that he would not have time to recover, the skeleton threw the boy a spatial ring and ordered him to put it on. And immediately after that, the skeleton began to speak in a language the boy could not understand. Meanwhile, the gate was increasingly crumbling, so the guy decided to close them for a while so they wouldn't destroy him. When asked by the skeleton who was in the ring what the ring was, he explained that it was a ring that could keep the living, but since he was a spirit, he was able to do that too. Realizing that this was no ordinary skeleton, and that he had many dungeons in his closet, he said that since he had saved him, he now owed him. Hearing Shen Ye's request that he wanted to enter his world, the skeleton thought the boy had gone crazy, as there was real madness going on there. At the same time, the boy moved the skeleton into a vat of liquid, which gradually restored its strength. But due to the skeleton's limited strength, he explained that Shen Ye had to pretend to be a dead warrior, and he could only get him items that would hide his human nature. But seeing the condition of these weapons and armor, the boy assumed that the skeleton was collecting them at a landfill, and in the end, Shen Ye found a suitable suit of armor for himself. To complete the image, the skeleton ordered him to wear a mask, and he explained that this was so that others would not be able to accurately find out his true identity. And now the boy looked like a real dead warrior. And when the boy was about to leave, the skeleton shouted that he shouldn't even dare to die, because if the ring on his hand was stolen, he would be caught immediately. Shen Ye, leaving the skeleton, said that he would try not to die, but the skeleton no longer heard his words. And when he entered the corridor again, he saw how everything around him had been destroyed. Remembering how he had received the sword from the elves last time, He realized that now it would be very useful for protection. Trying to make his way further, the boy wearily passed all the landslides, and the next thing he saw were several spears being aimed in his direction. Seeing people instead of the undead, the boy assumed that the people had won after all. So in order to stay alive, the boy took off his mask and said that he was also human. But no one believed him, and one of the men had already swung his sword at him to destroy him. However, at the last moment, Shen Ye pulled out his blade and stopped the man's attack. The man immediately recognized the light of the night blade. Shen Ye himself did not know then that only a human could possess and use this blade. Therefore, ordering the soldiers to investigate the remains of the undead further, he offered the boy his hand. After that, he asked if he needed their help. Shen Ye noticed that the man kept looking at his mask. Assuming that the skeleton had framed him, the boy decided not to refuse to help the man. Hearing this, the man decided to give the boy a fighting bag. After taking the bag and thanking him for it, he heard the man introduce himself as Lo Man. Meanwhile, one of the soldiers ordered everyone to stand back. A man on horseback appeared in front of them, asking Lomega how much more time he would waste because they needed to hurry. And upon hearing the man say that he had met the boy outside the tomb, the man ordered him to be captured, even though he had the light of the night blade. Shen Ye was aggressive and asked what his goal was. The man, angered by the boy's words, said that he was the lord of the palace, and no one dared to speak to him like that. Despite the fact that daggers were again pointed in his direction, the boy behaved defiantly, and after another insult, the man ordered him to be destroyed. But at that very moment, a gate appeared near Shen Ye, through which he successfully escaped death, and no one understood where he could have gone. The Lord, who did not understand where the boy could have gone, heard the explanation that according to some reports, there was a secret passage here. One of them suggested that Shen Ye was a hired assassin being used for assassination, and now the Lord had angered one of them. Hearing this suggestion, fear immediately appeared on the man's face, so he quickly started moving in the other direction and ordered the others to retreat as well. Meanwhile, Shen Ye returned to his apartment, which was provided to him by the organization. Shen Ye, still angry at the man, remembered how the skeleton had framed him and started yelling at him. Suddenly, the boy received a message that he had regained independence, and that if he gained it a third time, it would unlock access to hidden skills. And now he was wondering how he could do it. Shen Ye nervously began to recall in detail all the events when he received the independence skill and what he did to achieve it. And suddenly he was informed that a relative of Captain Law had come to see him. When Zhao Menyu introduced herself as Captain Luo's sister, Shen Ye immediately saw that her name was Great Swordswoman. Noticing that he had never seen such an assessment, he assumed that Mr. Chen was talking about this girl when he was on the phone. Shaking hands, the girl said that she knew that her brother had tracked down his killer and that his colleagues had broken his weapon, which was why he died. And then the girl coldly and indifferently added that she had destroyed them. Hearing that this girl was able to handle people who were being treated by highly qualified specialists, the guy walked away from her in fear. The girl then continued to talk about how her brother was a person with disabilities, and she hoped he would find a job and start a family. Shen Ye, listening to this story, did not understand what kind of limitations the girl was talking about. The girl, looking at the boy's surprised face, asked why if others could insult him, why couldn't she? Shen Ye waved his hands in protest, saying that it was her business, and asked if she would be arrested for it. Remembering that the guy was from an aristocratic family but had never lived there, she explained that their family was also aristocratic, so no one could do or say anything to her. After that, the girl continued to say that the killer didn't even know who exactly and which family member he killed. Later, the girl explained that she had come to him to ask if he had any suspicions about who had tried to kill him, because she also wanted to deal with him. Shen Ye, not understanding why she needed this, since she had already avenged her brother's death, said he had no leads. Taking out the sword, the girl said that this was not enough for her, and that in addition to the murderers, she also wanted to kill the customers. After that, the sky was filled with a purple glow, and a black crack appeared in the middle of the sky. Shen Ye, looking at the crack, could not believe that the girl was able to make this sword, which he did not even notice at first. Seeing the boy's hesitation, the girl told him to think about it, and remind him that since he was from an aristocratic family and could have many enemies, she added that he could always count on her. Shen Ye explained that their family had long ago severed all ties with the aristocracy, but said that he had heard strange sounds in the hospital. Hearing the boy's suggestion that someone might have been eavesdropping on them, the girl was immediately surprised by the news she heard. Realizing that she needed more details, the girl said goodbye to the guy to meet with another person who might know more information. Suddenly, behind him, the boy heard Mr. Chen's voice, saying that she had a scary blade. The man explained that she belonged to one of the most influential families, and she was also entering high school as Shen Ye. Shen Ye yawned indifferently, said that the most important thing was that she was on his side, and said goodbye to Mr. Chen, who said that he would hire teachers for him to prepare for the exams. Meanwhile, the boy in his room was thinking about how the aristocracy could rule the world, and it was no wonder that many would want to kill him. Therefore, he asked the skeleton for horror crystals to learn new techniques, since next time, no one might save him. But the skeleton replied that his crystals would not work for him, as they were associated with unlife. Realizing that he would most likely learn the techniques upon admission, the guy was very disappointed because he didn't want to wait. Suddenly, looking to the side, he saw the suitcase that Luo Man had given him, which he had completely forgotten about. He immediately began checking to see if there was anything he needed, tossing aside the first aid kit and dry rations. And finally, a smile appeared on his face when he found the Crystal of Horrors inside. Shen Ye hoped that he would learn some good skill from him, but to the boy's great disappointment, he didn't get a skill, but something else altogether. But the guy wasn't even going to give up, and decided to go to another world again to find something new. Therefore, having asked the skeleton for human armor, the boy was about to set off into the skeleton's world, captured by humans. When the boys asked what kind of crystals he was holding in his hand, the skeleton explains that he would need them later. Not understanding why the skeleton was so kind, he explained that he wanted to thank him for his kindness. But when Shen Ye said that he didn't even intend to do it in the first place, the skeleton admitted that he wanted him to succeed and found him materials that would help him recover faster. And eventually, after some time, the boy found himself on the battlefield, where there were many wounded or already motionless bodies. At that time, the soldiers were searching among the dead for wounded soldiers to help. Shen Ye calmly watched this, having hidden in advance. Realizing that the soldiers would still be on the battlefield for some time, he knew that he didn't need to take any risks, as he could be exposed, so he decided to use the dead bodies to find out more information. Therefore, approaching one of the giants, he activated the Whisper of Darkness. He asked him if he knew anything about this armor, but he said no. But the guy didn't give up, and after a while, interviewed all the dead. And in the end, without receiving any information, the boy sat down on the ground, exhausted. He felt like he was looking for a needle in a haystack, and when he had already given up, he saw another body next to him. Not far from him lay the werewolf, which was his last chance. So he decided to ask if he had ever seen this armor or knew anything about it. To the boy's great surprise, the werewolf said that this armor belonged to a man who now only had one arm. And turning around, the boy saw a hand next to him and decided to use the Whisper of Darkness on it as well. And to his great surprise, the hand responded to his question. Pleased with this, the boy decided to ask about the armor again. The hand, unable to speak, pointed a finger at him right in front of him. And when the boy looked where the hand was pointing, he saw a single boot in front of him. But as soon as he got closer to it, he smelled a terrible stench that even made him cover his nose. Suddenly, he saw that there was something inside it and took it out. Emblem of the Dark Shadow allows you to use special weapons, or rather, transform a regular weapon into a special one. Shen Ye couldn't believe it, so he decided to check. And when he took out his sword, he really saw that it had changed a lot. Holding the sword in his hand, he saw that there was also a note in the shoe. And covering his nose with his hand, he read that this was a task from the Hand of the Shadow, for which he could receive a reward. And trying to get a reward for telling the secrets of the undead, he decided to use the Shadow of Horrors crystal. But to their great surprise, none of the undead knew any secrets about themselves. And only now did Shen Ye realize how problematic this was. Suddenly, he heard the skeleton's voice again, saying that he could give him information. At this point, Shen Ye mentioned that he had his own undead, but asked if he was sure since it was about his own clan. Smiling at the boy's question, the skeleton said that he was offended by them, so he would tell some secrets. Shen Ye, upon hearing his words, remembered that it was indeed not easy for him to live among the undead, and in order not to become a suspect, the guy asked for the usual information, and learned that the undead were using new components to improve their weapons. This information was not as valuable as the guy thought, since some high-ranking people know about it, but are not going to talk yet. Shen Ye was pleased that he would receive the award, even without having done anything. Seeing a camp not far from him, he decided that he needed to go there, because the task came from there. At that moment, the skeleton suggested that he pretend to be wounded so that he would be found. And only now did he learn that people's medicine is the best, compared to others. And he also learned that it takes money. And the skeleton immediately added that the undead causes those who are almost dead to commit suicide. After all, to help the wounded undead, they need a certain spell and a sacrifice in the form of humans. But the problem for the boys was that he had no money at all. But suddenly, the skeleton said he had money. Continuing to stand next to the giant, an idea came to Shen Ye. The skeleton, not understanding what the guy who had increased his strength was going to do, simply watched him. Shen Ye, not reacting to the skeleton's surprised voice, asked him to help him make a sound if he was unconscious. And at that moment, he threw a giant thing at him, which flattened him to the ground. But the boy felt the pain and didn't faint from it, so he screamed without the help of the skeleton. The skeleton, who didn't understand why he was doing all this, asked this guy, and Shen Ye, in response, asked if he didn't like his game. Meanwhile, Shen Ye continued to pretend to be injured, begging for help, and eventually, one of the warriors heard his screams and reported them to the others. So they immediately set off in his direction. And after a while, the girl was reciting a spell in an unknown language next to the boy's motionless body. And this guy turned out to be the unconscious Shen Ye. Within a few minutes, his condition improved, and he began to regain consciousness. Immediately after that, the girl bowed to the Lord and said that she had completed her healing. And after the boy came to his senses, a gentleman approached him and said that he was now safe and among people. The man introduced himself as Prince Lane and asked if the emblem on his shield really meant that he served Lord Lane. Shen Ye, continuing to pretend, said that he was glad that he had been found, and added that the city was overrun with undead, and people needed to be sent to help. After that, the elderly man took a crystal that contained a message for them, which Shen Ye was to deliver. And eventually, they received a message that the Lord of Lane was asking for help, that someone send troops, and for this, he would reward them generously. And upon hearing the true voice of the Lord, they realized that the boy was not lying. Prince Lane, realizing that the boy was one of his own, said that Lane was now completely defeated and that he had miraculously remained alive. Hearing the news, Shen Ye even had tears in his eyes. And after that, while continuing to lie, Shen Ye remembered his family who had stayed there, so the boy began to cry a lot. Prince Lane understood that the boy needed a rest because he had been through so much during this time. The death of his loved ones, and the blow of the stone hammer. But upon hearing that the prince was going to send him to a safe place, the boy froze abruptly, because he needed to convey information about the undead, and for this, he needed to stay here for a while. Therefore, to the prince's great surprise, Shen Ye asked to stay in the camp, and to make sure his reason was true, he said with anger on his face that he wanted to avenge the deaths of his loved ones and drive the undead out of Lane himself. At this moment, others present watched, sincerely believing his words. The words he heard surprised the prince even more and confirmed his thoughts that this boy was extremely brave and strong despite his young age. And when the prince asked if he had any unusual skills, the boy quickly replied that he ran like no one else did. And intending to confirm his words, the boy, despite his fatigue, left the tent. And to the great surprise of the soldiers, who remembered what the boy had been like a few hours ago, they saw the boy run swiftly past them. And at the end, trying to catch his breath, the boy asked again if he could stay in the camp. Even the others present asked the prince to let the boy stay with them. And suddenly one of the girls approached the guy and asked where he got this bracelet. Shen Ye replied that it was a gift from his elf girlfriend. The girl immediately touched the bracelet and spoke words in a language that was again incomprehensible to the boy. And suddenly, the silhouette of Lenny appeared in front of them, who didn't understand who was calling her until the girl introduced herself as a magister of the royal court, who asked how the boy could have an elven bracelet. Immediately after that, Shen Ye greeted the girl, asking how she was doing. The girl, recalling her question, heard that the boy had helped them expose the undead who were pretending to be elves, trying to destroy their ruler. Hearing this, the girl let go of the guy's bracelet and said he would contact her later. After hearing what she heard, the girl also shared the prince's opinion and suggested that he send the boy to study in the Empire. The prince, who knew that elves rarely valued humans so highly, immediately agreed to the girl's proposal. And when the prince finally asked his name to restore his documents, the boy didn't know what to say. So at that very moment, he grabbed his head, pretending to feel sick and explaining that he couldn't remember anything. The elderly man, approaching the boy closer, assumed that the blow was so strong that the boy had a concussion, which caused him to lose his memory. After that, the prince told the boy not to worry and said that they would meet him later. And immediately after that, the guy saw a message that he was able to improve his reputation and received a new nickname, the guy who survived adversity. But Shen Ye didn't like this nickname at all, and he thought about whether he could remove it. And immediately after that, he received the answer to his question. He could remove this surname by earning a new one or becoming a hermit who everyone would forget about. But now everyone addresses him like that, and he can't do anything about it. When Shen Ye was asked why the prince's words became entrenched as his nickname, it was explained that the prince is the heir to the empire, so his words have great influence. Meanwhile, the man continued to marvel at Shen Ye. When the girl asked what he meant, the man explained that the guy really believed in the hand of the shadow, because people his age are usually not very religious. The prince agreed with the man's words and decided that this guy should receive a hero's medal. And after some time, the guy found the tent he needed, in which the shadow camp was located. He saw a man in front of him who was not paying any attention to him. Immediately understanding the reason for this, the boy showed a secret sign that only members of the Hand of the Shadow knew. The man, responding with the same sign, asked if he had any news. Shen Ye threw the crystal at him and said he got it from the undead. Seeing that this thing was really valuable, the man already knew what to offer Shen Ye. He immediately showed a combat dagger which was smeared with a special poison and from which the victim died immediately. Shen Ye, not surprised by the sword, asked if he had anything else. At his question, the man blew a whistle, and immediately after that, a horse appeared in front of them. The man calmly watched the horse's motionless body and said that this horse pretends to be dead as soon as someone looks into its eyes. But this didn't interest the guy either, and he asked if he had anything else. The man showed him the glasses, which were pierced by light. Shen Ye, putting on his glasses, immediately began to see how much money each person had. When asked by the boy if he had a horror crystal, the man said that due to limited supplies, there were only 2 stones. Showing a red crystal, the man explained that it helps the enemy bleed, and showing the blue crystal, he said that it could repel the enemy's weapons. And suddenly the boy, who wanted to take 2 stones, heard a voice that advised him to choose the blue stone, Storm. Shen Ye immediately recognized the mysterious voice that had given him the sword, Light of the Night. Regardless of what the seller might think, the boy asked the voice why this particular crystal, to which he received the answer that it was used in another world. And immediately the voice added that he then needed to think about how to obtain other special crystals in order to discover the real secret. Not understanding how this would help him, the boy still decided to listen to the advice of the secret voice. But the man replied that the storm was just a basic technique, and the value of the reward for his information was much higher. So the man asked what else the boy wanted. Shen Ye, who didn't need anything else, decided to take the rest in cash. And leaving the tent, the boy asked the skeleton to get the undead skills, which was impossible, since the creature that wanted to use them had to have fire in its soul. Then Shen Ye asked for the shadow skill, which helps catch the souls possessed by the skeleton, but the skeleton did not understand why he needed it, since it was very expensive. But in the end, the skeleton gave him this skill, and the boy's points were redistributed. After that, Shen Ye began to look for a quiet and deserted place so that he would not be noticed. And having found a suitable place, he activated the shadow skill. Shen Ye, seeing that this technique only looked powerful, but in reality had no benefits, was very disappointed. Meanwhile, the skeleton didn't understand why he needed that skill, but the boy said that he needed to get another skill to get a reward for them all. And one of the warriors approached him and called him by his nickname again, which greatly annoyed Shen Ye. The warrior handed him a box with a badge of bravery and a letter of recommendation, with which the king personally decided to reward him for his brave act. Shen Ye didn't understand why he needed this, but he thanked him anyway, and learned that he was expected at the Imperial Military Academy, so he needed to leave now. But along with this, the guy received gold, thanks to which he can now not worry, but on the contrary, take care of his family. And with these thoughts, he realized that it was time to return to his real world. The very next morning, he was informed that the gold had been converted into money and had already been sent to his account. Shen Ye thanked him for the news, and suddenly a message came to his phone. A friend immediately called him and asked why he had sent him money, because there was too much of it. After finishing the phone conversation, the guy only now realized that he hadn't used his phone for several days, and that during that time he had received a bunch of messages, and one of them was a message from Zhao Yibin, who apologized and suggested that he restore their friendship. After reading her message, the guy was surprised by her naivety and the fact that he would believe in her sincerity. And so he wrote to her to be realistic and understand that she was now far from him. Then the guy saw a message from his friend, who also congratulated him on entering the academy and suggested meeting in the evening. But here he faced a problem, as he was still under the sights of the killers, who tried to eliminate him at every opportunity. Shen Ye, who was always alone in his real life, felt a strong bond with his friend and did not want to lose him. Suddenly, his problem solved itself as soon as he read his friend's message that he would like to see the academy and spend time with it. So he happily agreed and said he would wait for him in the lobby. But when Shen Ye entered the hall, he He saw a group of people in front of him. The closer the boy got to them, the more he felt that the energy of these guys was different. So the boy realized that these were the people with special qualifications that Mr. Chen had spoken about. Suddenly, one of them noticed the presence of Shen Ye, who apologized for disturbing them. But in response, the man smiled and said that everything was okay, because he too was once just like him. Shen Ye, smiling, asked if he really wanted to become like them, to which he received the answer no. And the man added that when he looked at them, he felt only a feeling of hatred and a desire to tear them to pieces. Shen Ye tensed up greatly upon hearing his answer, for he understood how powerful he was. Suddenly, the man saw a girl in front of him, who was watching their conversation. The man greeted Vina and offered to have dinner with her if she wasn't working today. The girl, who was already fed up with the boy continuing to pursue her, pointed a gun at him and said she would skin him. After that, the girl returned to Shen Ye and calmly said that a person who had already passed the inspection had come to him and asked if he should be let in. Shen Ye realized that it was Chen Haoyu and asked him to let him in. Shen Ye wanted to meet him in person, but the girl wouldn't let him, because, according to Mr. Qian's orders, he wasn't allowed to go anywhere for his own safety. Shen Ye couldn't resist the beautiful girl, so he calmly agreed with her words. And after a while, a man entered the room, looking around with admiration. After that, the guys decided to take a little walk, and the guy started talking about the excitement he had caused at school by signing the contract. Then Chen Haoyu wanted to see the room where Shen Ye lived, and suggested they go there. After pressing the elevator button, it stopped, and when it opened, they saw several more people, and when they went inside, the guy said they needed to go to the 105th floor. Suddenly, a notification came to his phone again. It was a message from Zhao Minui, who said that the nurse managed to film someone who was in the hospital, but she disappeared immediately after that. But the video was found. After receiving a message that the nurse was most likely killed because of him, the guy started watching the video. And that's why the girl decided to check his surroundings and sent a video of Chen Haoyu behaving very strangely. Looking at the excitement of his friend riding the elevator, he remembered that at the time when he was looking for him, he was in another world. Looking intently at his friend, he didn't understand why he was looking for him. Chen Haoyu immediately noticed the boy's suspicious look and asked what was the matter, but he didn't get a response because they had just arrived at the right floor. Shen Ye, having learned that his friend was hiding something, behaved very cautiously and watched him carefully. And finally, they almost reached his room. And as soon as the boy asked if this was his room, his eyes immediately glowed red. And immediately after that, Chen Haoyu saw him strike Shen Ye. Chen Haoyu immediately assumed that it was all an illusion, and he couldn't believe that Shen Ye had such abilities. While the boy was coming to his senses, Shen Ye seized the moment and struck him. After that, Shen Ye said that he was not Chen Haoyu and asked where his real friend was. The man, whose face was half his friend's and half his own, said with a smile that he had been dead for a long time. And as he was about to destroy him, the man said that they would be reunited in the afterlife. But at the last moment, he pushed the man away from him, putting his leg out in front of him. Shen Ye himself was surprised by the skills he gained through his basic skills by combining them all together. Shen Ye, having fired several shots, none of which hit the man, raised an alarm that would send highly qualified specialists rushing to his floor. And within a few seconds, a vehicle with highly qualified professionals appeared near his floor. And after some time, the killer's limbs were destroyed. Vina, who did not expect that the man could accept a different account and was angry that she had been deceived, was going to destroy the guy, so she calmly approached the killer and put her hand on his throat, threatening to skin him if he didn't tell her who sent him. Despite his dire situation, the man laughed and said that she would learn nothing from him. And immediately after that, the man gnawed through the poison that was hidden in his mouth, thereby taking away the girl's chance to learn at least some information. Shen Ye, looking at Sister Wen, who was thinking about the fact that they needed to find at least some evidence, decided that he would never anger her. And after some time in the morgue, it was revealed that this guy was a killer with extraordinary skills and did not have any documents with him that would identify him. Even Vina understood that she was powerless here. Realizing that this corpse was of no use anymore, Mr. Qian suggested that the girl leave the morgue as soon as possible, but he asked me to stay here for a while. Mr. Qian, realizing that the boy had a great sense of death, suggested that he might be able to do or learn something. And as soon as the door closed, the guy activated the Whisper of Darkness to get information from the deceased. The man, who did not expect the boy to have the ability to communicate with the dead, immediately stood up at the boy's call. And immediately after that, he started laughing, saying that he wasn't going to tell him anything. Skeleton, who had never seen such a reaction to whispers of darkness before, said it would be an interesting show. And immediately after that, they all moved to another place, which partly resembled hell. The killer was tied to a large wall while he was tormented by the undead. And besides, his body was enveloped in flames, which brought even more pain to his body. But he was not allowed to die a second time. But on the contrary, despite the fire, his body and muscles were restored. The skeleton, captivated by this spectacle, said that anyone who refused to speak with the whisper of darkness would be doomed to eternal torment. Well, then he will be tormented for millions of years, and then dark spirits will continue to torment him until he tells the truth. The man, unable to bear the pain any longer, asked to stop, saying that he would tell everything. And immediately after that, they were transported back to the morgue in an instant. The skeleton did not expect the man to give up so quickly, thus disappointing him. Shen Ye, meanwhile, ordered the man to tell him everything he knew. A few minutes ago, there was a girl on the roof of the girls' dormitory. Zhao Yibin communicated with Mr. Gan, who ordered her to recruit a boyfriend, but she was unsuccessful. After receiving the message, the husband wrote to ask her to come to the hotel today. Suddenly, the girl received a call and was informed that she had received a quota for admission to the most famous high school. After this news, she thanked Mr. Gan and said that she would come without delay. Suddenly, her happiness was interrupted by the presence of Captain Law's sister, who ordered her to give up the phone. But the girl wasn't even going to do that and ordered her to get out of there. After that, the girl quickly pointed her sword at the girl's neck. Zhao Minui, who knew that the girl was most proud not of her achievements, but of her appearance, once again told her to give up the phone, or else she would cut off her nose. And without waiting for her consent, the girl snatched the phone from her hands while she was screaming about the threats. Suddenly, Shen Ye called her, saying that he had interrogated the murderer and had some information. The girl asked what exactly he had said, while Zhao Yibin, upon hearing the name of her former friend, thought that he had sent her. Without finishing the conversation, the guy ordered the man to say that he belonged to an association of assassins who said that they had been tasked with destroying him, but to make it look like it was an accident. Continuing to speak, the man said that he had killed his friend and taken his place to lure him to the hospital. But not only did they fail, but he had witnesses. So in addition to completing the task, they also had to find out why they didn't succeed on the first try. And this time, they decided to do it through the police. Shen Ye asked why they hid Captain Luo's body in the closet and asked where the real body was, to which he received an answer from the girl who said that it was found in the school sewer. This news made the boy so angry that in his anger he squeezed his phone so hard that its screen cracked. But despite all his anger, Shen Ye calmly asked who their customer was. The man replied that only the one in charge of the mission knew his name. Therefore, the next question for the guys was, who exactly was their manager? The man said that he is called the Skinner, and that he himself is one of his experiments in skin replacement, and that he is currently in the maple forest. When Shen Ye asked if he had any weaknesses, the man replied that his strength was so powerful that he couldn't even think of any, and when asked why he wouldn't personally destroy him, he replied that his reputation was so high that he couldn't get his hands dirty by killing an ordinary teenager. Otherwise, it would destroy his reputation. After that, the man added that this man had an unusual habit, and that habit was cannibalism, which didn't really surprise the girl who had been listening to their conversation all this time. And immediately after that, the girl said that she was going to meet this person, and immediately after that, she hung up, not giving the guy a chance to convince her not to do it. The man, who also heard the girl's words, laughed at them because he knew perfectly well that the killer liked to eat young and innocent girls. For his words, he was immediately hit by Shen Ye, causing several of his teeth to fall out. Meanwhile, there were residents at the 5-star hotel in the Maple Forest. At that time, the person in charge of the order regarding Shen Ye was eating dinner. The man tasted and evaluated his victim's food. The girl sitting with him said that the Bloody Mary cocktail perfectly complemented this taste. She turned out to be the same nurse who had become a witness, who had now become part of the man's meal. Suddenly, a notification came to the man's phone. After apologizing to his interlocutor, the man read that he had received another order, but this time they asked him to take care of it personally. The man wasn't going to just take on the matter personally and asked his interlocutor what he would offer him in exchange. As soon as the man received the message that he would give him a girl in exchange, he immediately laughed at his message because his standards were very high. But as soon as he saw the girl's photo, he immediately changed his mind. He was already mentally imagining what he would do with this beautiful, innocent lamb. Therefore, the man, already dreaming about her, immediately agreed to the order. Realizing that he had little time for today's date, he realized that he needed to prepare a lot. The man thought as he walked that he needed to change something about himself. Suddenly, he remembered the most important thing. Looking at his interlocutor. After wrapping her in threads, he apologized and said that their relationship was over. And after destroying her body to pieces, he said that he could not allow her to upset his guest. Meanwhile, Shen Ye's identity was identified, and he named the phrase through which his call can be activated. Mr. Qian really liked his phrase, "In just 10 steps, a person can die." And at that moment, a transparent racer's motorcycle appeared in front of the boy. Looking at the motorcycle with admiration, the guy listened carefully to all the characteristics about it. And the bigger surprise for the guy was that the motorcycle could fly. Coming closer, the boy said that if it were red, it would be better. And the next moment, a red motorcycle stood in front of him. Because thanks to the motorcycle's new body, which was made of dragon material, it could change color. The guy was satisfied, but he would like to master the technique of wielding a sword, to which the man said that he was very dangerous now, so he got a motorcycle so that he could escape quickly. Shen Ye suggested that if Kunlun thought the situation was dangerous, he knew who was going to kill him. The man replied that even if he knew, he definitely wouldn't interfere in such nonsense. He had to monitor the security of civilization, and only if they needed the guy could he share information with them. Shen Ye immediately fell silent, as he had long since realized that if a person has no value in this world, then no one cares whether they are alive or dead. And immediately after that, he thought about how Xiao Minui was tearing off his skin. After that, the man told the boy not to go anywhere and that his floor would be locked, so no one could come to him, and added that he would take him to the exam tomorrow. Meanwhile, the girls had already arrived at the hotel where Zhao Yibin was supposed to meet Mr. Gan. Zhao Yibin didn't want to take the girl with her, but she had no choice, and now she could only hope that Mr. Gan wouldn't get angry. As soon as Zhao Minui approached the hotel, she immediately felt a rich, murderous energy that was very carefully concealed. The girl was troubled by the fact that the girl was given pills and means to improve her strength, and also helped her enter the most prestigious school under a preferential category in order for her to turn her classmates against Shen Ye. And besides, he had already signed an agreement with the organization, so her mission had failed. But she didn't pay attention to it. The girl understood perfectly well that she was just an ordinary young girl from a poor family who had traded everything she had for a deal that would yield nothing good. After that, the girl offered her two options, the first of which was that she would wait outside until she finished and become her witness, and the second that she would leave immediately and they would pretend that they were strangers. Angered by the words, the girl silently headed towards the hotel. At that moment, Zhao Minui had already prepared her sword for defense. Meanwhile, Zhao Yibin had already gone inside and was about to meet Mr. Gan. The man immediately approached her and handed her a flower, saying that she was the most beautiful girl he had ever met. Zhao Yibin, not expecting him to be like this, as he was completely different online, thanked him for helping her get into the most prestigious school. After that, he told the girl not to worry about Shen Ye, as he would take care of him himself. And at that very moment, they passed by an open window from which a strong wind was blowing. The man gave the girl his jacket so she wouldn't freeze, and immediately felt the energy of the sword coming from outside, directed at him. Realizing that someone was hunting him, the man decided to speed up the process and told the girl that he would recommend her to the 3 best universities in the world. The girl already imagined how she would study at the best school and meet famous people. This was so unattainable for the girl that she asked if he was telling her the truth, and to dispel her doubts, he immediately gave her a phone so she could enter her details. And immediately after that, the girl received a message that she had been granted the right to participate in the entrance exam to the 3 best universities. She was so happy that she hugged her husband and cried. The man, who had to hurry, decided not to waste time and kissed the girl. After that, the girl was wrapped in threads, just like the girl who had dinner with her husband. While the girl was under the influence of her husband, he couldn't help but admire her. Suddenly, a loud noise was heard in one of the hotel buildings. Zhao Minui, approaching Zhao Yibin, who was standing still, realized that she was late. She expected her husband to understand that she had the will of the blade and be more restrained. But now she realized that he was a real madman, and immediately after that, she heard screams. A man ran to her, saying that Zhao Yibin was his. Zhao Menui calmly waved her sword in the air, preventing the man from getting close to them. He asked her to stop so as not to hurt the girl, and said that he would do whatever he wanted as long as she did not touch him. The girl, holding a sword near Zhao Yibin, told him to stand still if he didn't want her to die, and asked who his boss was. From the girl's technique, he realized that the legendary Zhao Menui was standing in front of him, and, taking advantage of the moment, also wrapped her in threads that she would not be able to cut. He said that she should give him Zhao Yibin back, and then he would release her. But Zhao Menui didn't listen to him, and wasn't going to give up so easily, and continued to stand still. Zhao Menui suggested seeing which of the two of them could withstand her blow. The man, realizing that Zhao Yibin would not survive, began to cry, as they had just met and had not spent much time together. So he decided to forget about Zhao Yibin and switch to Zhao Menui. But the former couldn't get out of his mind. Feeling terrible, the man screamed that he would devour them both. Realizing that the man would not give up, the girl offered him a contract. The man, who had already accepted his true identity, was interested in the girl's words that if he told who his client was, she would give him Zhao Yibin and even give him a chance to kill her. But the man was not going to make a contract with her, because in his opinion, even if there was no contract, he would still be able to get her body by killing her. The girl did not share her husband's opinion and explained that even if he could defeat her, he would receive her in parts. And if there was a deal, she could guarantee that her family would not do anything to him. The man continued to stand silently, regaining his human appearance. He couldn't quite believe that the girl was telling the truth and asked her again. But just the thought of Zhao Menui and what he would do to her made him make a deal with her. The girl calmly and coolly responded to his words, saying that her blade would destroy him. And the next moment, he was holding Zhao Yibin in his arms, about to take her to a safe place, because the moment he said the puppeteer's name, he might have problems, and he didn't want anyone to interfere with them. Meanwhile, Shen Ye tried to call Zhao Menui to no avail, worried that something might happen to her. So he decided to ask the skeleton if the girl had any chance against that man. The skeleton said that he did not know him personally, but felt that his strength was much greater than Zhao Menui's. With these words, he suggested that the boy go to sleep. At that moment, the guy remembered all the people who died partly because of him. And, in addition, he dragged Zhao Menui into his problems. The girl was one of those who tried to prove this case to the end, so he wasn't going to let her die. Until suddenly, someone called him. The girl said that her mother told her that if she couldn't reach her, she should try calling Shen Ye. When the boy asked who she was, the girl explained that she was the daughter of a nurse who was the only witness who saw the killer. Then the girl added that they were going to meet her mother, but she still hadn't come. And then the guy decided to go to her. At first, the guy put his motorcycle in the storage room, despite the skeleton's words, who wanted to stay at the headquarters because it was very safe and comfortable there. While Shen Ye was preparing for the journey, the skeleton tried to dissuade him, because when he dies, he doesn't know what will happen to him. After that, the guy went out onto the balcony of the 105th floor, and he won't be able to escape from here. Assuming that Shen Ye was going to escape on a motorcycle, the skeleton warned that it would cause a lot of noise. And immediately after that, the skeleton finally realized that the boy was going to jump off the roof. Shen Ye, meanwhile, silently stared at the starry sky. In the next moment, he calmly jumped off the roof despite the skeleton's words. In a few seconds, the boy created a gate in front of him, preparing to jump through it. In the next moment, he was in the corridor, which was at the gate. Then he found himself back in his own world, as he opened the gate at a safe height, using the horror world as an aerial platform to avoid crashing. Repeating this over and over again, he created numerous points of support in the air, and eventually he entered the goal one last time. When the boy finally landed on the ground, he struggled to keep his balance as the skeleton screamed at him again. After that, he took out his motorcycle, preparing to go on a trip. But before using the motorcycle, he needed to enter a password, which he had already done. And the next moment, he was racing through the empty city roads at incredible speed. And in a few minutes, he arrived at the place where the girl was waiting for him. In front of him, he saw a little girl who was going to look for her mother because she was not answering her. While the boy was trying to call the police to no avail, the girl asked if her mother was even alive, and the boy didn't know what to tell her. Upon learning that her father had died long ago, he said he would take her to a safe place and try to find her mother himself. After that, he ordered the artificial intelligence, which was installed in the motorcycle, to take the girl to a safe place and then return to him. Despite this, the girl herself was scared and said she wanted to go to her mother. But after he said he would try to find her mother while she was in a safe place, the girl calmed down. So, with tears in her eyes, she agreed to wait for him in a safe place. And as soon as the girl left, the skeleton began to tell him not to engage in delusions, since he would not find her mother, and the girl would become a burden to him. Shen Ye knew that her mother died because of him, and told the skeleton, who thought he was too kind. The skeleton asked the boy if he sensed anything strange in the area. Shen Ye, who was busy with the girl, really didn't notice anything until he heard the skeleton's words, and immediately realized that there was no living person here. Suddenly, they heard the sounds of battle from the maple forest, where Zhao Minyu should be now, and realized that they could not wait any longer. After that, the guy ran to the hotel, telling the skeleton that he had warned him about the danger. Upon entering, the first person the guy saw was a dead receptionist who asked if he had booked a room. Taking out his weapon and activating his skill, he asked the girl how she died and what they were doing here. The girl calmly told him that the owner had killed them to satisfy his desires and control their souls and order them to do terrible things. When asked why they didn't attack him, the girl explained that they were set up like puppets, and therefore, until there was an order, she wasn't going to do anything. When he asked who else died here besides her, the girl said that everyone did, and as bloody tears began to flow from her eyes, she said that all the people in that area were dead. This surprised the boy so much that he even froze for a few seconds. Suddenly, the boy heard someone struggling on the roof, and realizing that this was his chance, he quickly ran towards the sounds of battle. He tried to find where this was happening, and kicking down the door, he was surprised by what he saw next. In front of him, he saw a room filled with bodies, and according to the skeleton, it was one of the smallest such rooms. Having activated the Whisper of Darkness, he asked people if there was anyone alive here. While everyone answered that they didn't know anything about it, one of the girls said that she knew him. It was the same nurse who was on duty at the time. Shen Ye apologized to her because he knew she died because of him. The girl didn't care about it anymore because she was already dead, but she still asked him to avenge them. Shen Ye told them not to worry and promised that he would do it, adding that he would take care of her daughter. The words about his daughter really impressed the girl because she didn't understand who he was talking about. Shen Ye, tensed by her words, said that she had called him and asked for help. At the same moment, a whirlwind of debris appeared in front of the boy, covering the nurse's face. Meanwhile, a powerful explosion occurred in one of the buildings. The skeleton explained that the building collapsed due to an explosion upstairs. Then the skeleton added that one of the people upstairs had very weak energy, and it was this person who was approaching them. Shen Ye really had a similar feeling, so to protect his body from hitting the ground, he put out his arms. And the next moment, Zhao Mengyu fell unconscious into his arms. For a moment, the girl opened her eyes and didn't expect to see Shen Ye here, so she asked him what he had forgotten here. Hearing his answer that he had come to save her, the girl called him an idiot because he had very little strength to overcome him. The girl, who had been hiding her true power all this time so that her husband would be seduced, never expected this boy to come to her aid. So she was going to say something to him, but she didn't have time because she got hit on her cheek. He immediately apologized to her and said that he had no other choice. Otherwise, she would find out how he traveled the worlds. Meanwhile, the man walked through the rubble and tried to find Zhao Minyu. Assuming that the girl wanted to play hide and seek, the man decided to follow her rules. Continuing to hold the girl, the boy asked the skeleton among his junk to find weapons and armor for the girl. And as soon as they landed in another world, the boy, seeing the clothes, was surprised by the rabbit costume. When asked where he got such a suit, the skeleton replied that he took it from a dead man. Suddenly, the men who were nearby heard cries for help. Upon entering, the men immediately turned to him, knowing his last name. After that, he laid the girl down, who was unconscious, and asked to help her. Shen Ye, remembering that medicine is expensive for people, handed them the funds donated by Prince Lane. Seeing the emblem on the bag, the man asked if this was the money that had been allocated for education. Shen Ye, without any time, told the men who continued talking to shut up and help the girl. After that, the men said they would do everything possible to cure her and stood in a circle around the girl. While watching the treatment help her, the boy saw a message saying that he had donated his money to save his friend, for which he received a new nickname, the Immortal. Suddenly, men approached him, calling him by his new nickname, and saying that the treatment was complete. One of the men said that because they used the best medicine, her recovery was very rapid, and she came to her senses within minutes. When Shen Ye was about to return to his main world to wake up the girl there, the men looked after him and thought that she was his girlfriend because he had spent so much money on her. After some time, the girl began to come to her senses, and seeing Shen Ye in front of her, she sharply pointed her sword at his neck and asked what he had done to her. Shen Ye, not reacting to the sword in any way, said that it was a special technique that only worked when a person was unconscious. Xiao Mingyue, who had not noticed any changes in her body before, realized that her wounds had indeed healed. She apologized for misunderstanding him, and the guy apologized for hitting her. When asked if she would continue to compete with that guy, the girl answered yes, because with the help of the healing technique, she had become much stronger. Shen Ye really saw that another one, Sufferer, had been added to her characteristics. Then the guy reminded her to find out who I was as a puppeteer, to which the girl replied that she already knew, but she didn't need to answer because this puppeteer had already come to them himself. The man, whose body emitted a dark red glow, was approaching them and had already noticed Shen Ye. Xiao Mingyue, assuming that the boy had some hidden power, said that if he couldn't help her in any way, then he'd better leave. Xiao Mingyue didn't have to persuade the guy for long, and he immediately agreed with her decision and said goodbye to her. The girl, not expecting this, froze for a few seconds, looking at the already closed door. Assuming that his talent was healing, the girl decided that she would deal with this crazy man herself, so she abruptly took out her sword and swung it to the side. Its impact was so powerful that even part of the hotel collapsed. The man, who had only a small wound on his face, did not understand how the girl, who had been seriously injured, could inflict such a blow. The man suggested that he destroyed half of the building to save and heal the girl, but Xiao Mingyue didn't think so. But the man decided to think about it later, as he was currently worried about Xiao Mingyue. Meanwhile, the men were still discussing Shen Ye's action, understanding that the emperor was very fond of him. One of them said that he did not take all the coins, but gave some to his girlfriend, and also gave her a blessing of strength for 3 hours to express his respect for them. This news greatly surprised the other men, because each of them gave the girl a different blessing, without saying anything to each other. And in the end, they realized that this girl had gathered all the blessings, and now she had reached the peak of her power. But the problem was that all the blessings together could only be used by royal families. Otherwise, it was illegal, and the men could only hope that no one would ever find out about it. Meanwhile, Xiao Mingyue was once again wrapped in silk threads. She had already noticed that his strength, compared to the strength from the very beginning, had become much stronger, and she did not understand how he was able to increase it. She was also concerned about a sound that had been making since the beginning, and she assumed it was somehow related to his increasing strength. Suddenly, as she approached the door, she heard the sound getting louder, and she realized it was coming from there. Opening the door, the girl saw the bodies of people who were making these strange sounds. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of the door and slammed it shut with such force that it cracked. He said it was his gift to her, and they were singing for them. And getting down on one knee with an engagement ring, he said that this was their wedding song. Meanwhile, the skeleton thought that the boy had finally become smarter because he had decided to leave the building of his own free will. But to the skeleton's great surprise, the boy said he needed to get to another place. Shen Ye was worried that the bodies were casting spells that enhanced the man's strength, so he was very worried about the girl. The skeleton tried to explain to him that such a battle was beyond his capabilities, but eventually asked what exactly he was looking for. Without answering his question, Shen Ye opened one of the doors and finally found what he was looking for. The skeleton, seeing several computers in front of him, did not understand why the boy needed them. Shen Ye said that now was the time to test his skills, and these words prompted the skeleton to make an incredible assumption. Meanwhile, the man continued to kneel with the ring in his hand, asking the girl for permission to knit a wedding dress for her from silk threads. At that moment, the girl saw that the threads had almost completely wrapped around her body, but she wasn't even going to give up and kept slashing them with her sword. However, the man changed tactics and now first grabbed the blade with the threads, and within a few seconds, the man was back in front of her and asked her to put the ring on. And just as the boy was about to do it, the girl took out another of her swords, but she immediately directed it at her husband. He didn't expect there to be another sword in the sword at all, but only smiling at her futile attempts, he said that with the help of the blood demon's curse, he was invincible. Meanwhile, the man, who already believed that the outcome of events was already decided, began to be enveloped by dark lines. Xiao Mingyue, calmly continuing to cut the threads, said that this was not yet a fact, and immediately after that, she took 2 swords in both hands. The man, who was not afraid at all, only laughed at her actions. After all, even though the girl uses the paired blades of the sun and moon at a fairly young age, demonstrating her high level of fencing, The man still believed that she would die today. Without listening to his words, the girl briefly and coldly told him to die. And immediately after her words, she pointed her swords at him. But that's all the man expected from her, because while she was trying to destroy him, the man summoned a demon, to whom he offered tens of thousands of sacrifices. The next moment, a giant monster appeared behind the man. Zhao Menhui already realized that she wouldn't have time to do anything, since the man had already summoned the demon, which with every moment captured her more and more in its web. Meanwhile, Shen Ye asked his friends how they were doing through the microphone. Shen Ye's voice was heard not only by the girl, but also by the man, who even stopped for a moment, not expecting to hear it here. Meanwhile, the voices continued to chant spells until Shen Ye activated the Whisper of Darkness. And the next moment, instead of chanting spells, the dead began to talk about despair and how much they were hurting right now. The angry man could not understand who exactly and how was able to stop his curse. Meanwhile, Zhao Menhui wasted no time and already approached the man closely, intending to destroy him. And the next moment, the man's body was pierced by both swords. Continuing to stand and hold her sword, the girl said with a heaviness in her voice that his end had finally come. But suddenly she heard the voice of the man who was still alive, who said that she would never be able to kill him. While the dead still filled the space with their screams, the girl assumed that he had some kind of special armor, since her powerful blow had failed to kill him. But then it got even worse, as the corpses again began to shout spells instead of screams, thereby increasing the man's power. Meanwhile, Shen Ye loudly asked the dead if they knew how to sing the Happy Birthday song, and since there was not a single person on the planet who did not know this song, the voices began to speak in human voices again, thereby surprising the man again. And as soon as they began to sing, the man's curse faded again. Zhao Menhui tried to contain her emotions, despite the absurdity of the situation she found herself in. As the voices continued to sing, the man cursed and threatened Shen Ye. Trying to somehow calm his anger, the man began kicking so hard that the floor gave way under him. The skeleton understood perfectly well that the man would soon reach him, and warned Shen Ye about this. Shen Ye himself understood this perfectly, so he asked the voices to sing their favorite songs at the end. And at that moment, he began to run away from the man who was still strong and could easily destroy Shen Ye. But unfortunately, he saw it rapidly approaching him. And just as the man was about to destroy Shen Ye, a blue beam from Zhao Menhui's sword appeared between them. While the girl told the boy to run away when she tried to stop him, he couldn't help but marvel at the girl's talents and speed. The man, tired of the situation, said in a calm voice that if he dared to run away, he would simply destroy his parents. While the girl told the fleeing boy not to believe his words, the man continued to say that he would eat them right in front of his eyes. And while the man continued to say what would make him with his parents, the boy showed him the middle finger. After some time, having found a more or less safe place near them, the man walked and thought about what he should do. The skeleton at that moment tried to calm the boy down, because he understood perfectly well that if the boy had at least some techniques, he would have a chance to take part in the battle. Otherwise, he would simply be destroyed. Shen Ye, realizing that the skeleton was completely right, asked if he could take its body and become it and defeat the man. The skeleton said that he was already too weak for this, and besides, he was very badly injured and had not yet recovered, so he advised the boy to find a way to escape. Shen Ye, upon hearing his words, said that then they could talk about another matter. Remembering that they had a deal, he suggested that the skeleton sign a new contract. Holding the ring in his hand, he said that he would help him regain his strength, and in return, he would help him defeat this monster. The skeleton, remembering how he himself told the boy how difficult it was to cure people like him because it took a lot of people, suggested that he wanted to use the people in the hotel. When the boy asked if there would be enough dead people to cure him, the skeleton replied that for this to happen, they would need to sing a sacrificial song. But he did not have the strength to force them to do so. And the skeleton added that as soon as the man realized what he was trying to do, he would try to stop him. The skeleton, worried about what would happen to him after the boy's death, asked if he really wanted to die, to which the boy replied that if he did die, he could use the magic of the dead to turn him into his slave, to which the skeleton happily agreed. And finally, after discussing all the conditions, they concluded a contract between themselves. After that, the man asked to be told what exactly needed to be sung to the dead person in order to cure him. But the skeleton was unhappy that Shen Ye was going to use a recorder with a recording of his sacrificial speech to cure him. But in the end, the skeleton's desire to be cured won out. So he agreed to the boy's terms. And having already run out of the room where he was hiding, he again turned to the dead and asked them to sing word for word what he would now ask. And the dead, who could not help but succumb to the whisper of darkness, began to sing. And this was immediately noticed by the man, whose strength was weakening again due to the lack of a spell. And when the recording was over, the guy suggested that the spirits say it again, but together. Meanwhile, the man really didn't like that Shen Ye was able to control corpses and decided to end him as soon as possible. The skeleton, happy that he would soon recover, warned the boy to try to avoid the skin ripper, or he would try to stop him. So while the corpses continued to sing, the skeleton advised the boy to run to the top of the steps, where there was a cluster of spirits. But to Shen Ye's great surprise, he saw that the man was already approaching him. He wanted to destroy this guy who was bothering him so much at all costs. But, as usual, Zhao Menui stood in his way. Therefore, taking advantage of the moment before the voices cast spells and increased the man's strength, she tried to hurt him again. What bothered her was that the man was crazy about killing Shen Ye, but the girl was unable to stop the man, who was rapidly approaching Shen Ye with the help of blows. And when he finally reached the door, he tried with all his might to open it as the man came closer to him, believing that he would not be able to escape. Eventually, the boy managed to open the door and quickly slipped through. The man immediately followed him, not allowing him to escape. But when he entered the room, he couldn't find Shen Ye, which annoyed him greatly. Meanwhile, the bodies continued to deliver their sacrificial speech. Meanwhile, Shen Ye found himself next to Zhao Minwei again, and he quickly told the girl that he was counting on her a lot. And the next moment, a man stood before them, saying he would tear him to pieces. But at that moment, they saw before them the spirits of people who had already voluntarily wanted to give up their souls to cure the skeleton, which meant that he would recover very quickly. Shen Ye, realizing that this was his only chance, asked all the corpses to help him so that he could take revenge. But he didn't have time to finish, as a man approached him closely whom the boy didn't notice. But fortunately, the girl deprived him of his limbs, so he didn't do anything. But despite this, the man hit him with all his strength, wanting him to die. But what the man saw next to the illusion surprised him, so he even froze. And taking the chance, he again turned to the dead, asking them for help. And knowing that they hated him no less than he hated him, he proposed to unite and kill him together. The people whose lives this man took were truly ready to do anything to avenge him. But the man didn't pay much attention to their threats, believing that it was impossible to kill him. Suddenly, he felt something big hit his back. It was a giant bone that hit him on the floor, one he had recently broken himself. Zhao Minwei, trying, despite the rising storm of smoke, tried to make out what kind of creature was standing in front of her. Meanwhile, the skeleton said it was his fault that he was a day late. And after that, he plunged his giant sword into the man's body, intending to kill him. Shen Ye, continuing the skeleton's words, told him to die in front of all those he himself had killed. And only now did the man realize what a disaster he had found himself in, because he didn't know that the guy had such power. And Zhao Minwei only now understood what Shen Ye's trump card was. Meanwhile, Shen Ye realized that it was time to end it. Therefore, taking his sword, he swung at the man without hesitation. But he was still alive and was sure that no one would ever defeat him. The skeleton did not understand what was happening, because the silken red threads were already rapidly approaching him and his hand in which he held the sword. Suddenly, the skeleton laughed, because it was funny that the man considered these worthless threads to be his weapons. And immediately after that, he brought his sword almost to the man's body. The man didn't understand what was happening and why the skeleton hadn't yet stuck the sword in his back, to which he immediately received the answer that the skeleton considered him so worthless that he wasn't even going to get his hands dirty with him. But they all heard the pleas of all the souls who had been in captivity for a long time, asking him for revenge. And so it is time to give them back their freedom. And immediately after that, the skeleton activated Soul Revival. Zhao Minwei, who had been nearby the whole time, immediately saw that something strange was happening to the dead. Meanwhile, the skeleton told the ghosts that the time had come for their revenge. The man, who had tried unsuccessfully to take control of the dead, realized that the skeleton had robbed him of his power. Trying to somehow save himself, the man hooked his thread on the ceiling to get up from the ground. But the skeleton immediately guessed that he was trying to escape, so he blew flames at him. The man immediately froze in the air and did not understand what was happening to him in his body. The skeleton explained that it wouldn't harm him, but it might make him unable to move for a while. And the skeleton added that in the end, the dead had become like himself, and now they wished to have his body. Therefore, as soon as the man fell to the ground, he was immediately surrounded by the dead, wanting to take revenge on him for everything he had done to them. Suddenly, the man began to pray to the great gods, not wanting to die and asking them for help. But what surprised him even more was that dark clots appeared around the man again. And immediately after that, a bloody demon appeared and took over the man's body. After thanking the creature for his existence, the man ordered it to destroy everyone. But the creature ignored him. The skeleton sensed him using his magic, so he ordered the dead to quickly detain him. Therefore, unable to bear it, Shen Ye said that he would personally avenge him for the death of his best friend. Meanwhile, the man cursed the bloody demon who had not come to his aid. But in the end, he succeeded. And it was with the help of this man that he was able to divide Shen Ye's body into two parts. The skeleton laughed at this situation, because the man had once again fallen into the same trap called illusion. Meanwhile, seizing the moment, Shen Ye took out his gun and pointed it at the man. But he failed to hit the man, and instead hit the head of one of the dead. Shen Ye, seeing what he had done, apologized for the situation, and explained that he had not been training. So he asked the skeleton to use its fire attack and destroy the man. In the next moments, the man was enveloped in a bright glow from the flames, which completely destroyed his body. But as soon as the skeleton saw the black smoke around the man, he realized something was wrong. Therefore, he ordered Shen Ye to be more careful, and after that, he activated the white skeleton embrace. The skeleton explained that when the man was dying, something dark came out of him that wanted to kill him very badly. So he had to use magic on him. While they were distracted, the girl ordered them to look ahead. Suddenly, black smoke began to accelerate and swirl around the man's body. The skeleton, realizing that these dark forces were going to take the corpse of the Ripper, but Zhao Minyu was determined not to let him escape. Watching the girl walk away from them, Shen Ye wondered why they weren't running yet. The skeleton explained that he couldn't run fast and pull it at the same time. Then they began to think about who these dark ghouls belonged to. And eventually, they remembered the presence of another person in this hotel. The skeleton, knowing that there was not a single living soul in the area except for them, suggested that the boy use the Whisper of Darkness. Shen Ye decided to take the skeleton's advice and immediately asked the question. But after waiting for several minutes, they still received no response. Suddenly, he heard a sound from his motorcycle. When asked by the artificial intelligence whether it had completed its task and taken the girl to a safe place, it replied that the task had not been completed because the target had been lost. When the man asked what happened, the artificial intelligence replied that the girl fell on the way, then disappeared, and he was unable to find her. The skeleton, realizing that this girl was not so simple if she was able to jump off the motorcycle while it was traveling at high speed, once again told the boy not to help strangers. Suddenly, the guy received a message from Zhao Minyu that she had received information about the rapist. Shen Ye, having time, decided to immediately review what the girl had sent him, and when he looked, he couldn't believe his eyes. In the video, he saw a girl who was asked what kind of guy she wanted to see next to her, since she would soon turn 18. Suddenly, the girl remembered that once upon a time, they had gone to the Shen family for New Year's Eve, where they were attacked by a dog, and Shen Ye protected them. And turning around, she said that if she had a boyfriend, she wanted him to be exactly like that. After that, the video cut off, and people's faces were not visible, only voices. One of those present suggested dealing with this girl so that she would not seek a meeting with Shen Ye. The girl's father ordered to deal with Shen Ye because he did not want him to be with his daughter. So he asked to hire someone to make it look like a suicide. And even when the video ended, Shen Ye continued to stare motionlessly at the phone screen. Shen Ye had thought many times that he might be killed because of his family, because of his parents' secrets, or because of his family's enemies. But he could never have thought that the reason would be so stupid. Suddenly, he heard thanks from the dead. They were all grateful to him for helping them kill a demon they would never have been able to defeat on their own. Shen Ye hoped that all these people would be successfully reborn and live a happy life. And Shen Ye added that one day, he would find the strength to find the customer and take revenge on him for all of them. After all, right now he was so weak compared to Zhao Minyu that he had to drag a skeleton behind him to always protect him. Suddenly, one of the men approached him and personally thanked him for his revenge. All the people asked him to find the customer and still thanked him for what he did for them, and will protect him in hell. And within a few seconds, when he stopped the action of the Whisper of Darkness, all the bodies fell to the ground. And after a while, Shen Ye saw Zhao Minyu return. She immediately asked the boy what kind of shadow it was, which she had never been able to catch up with. She assumed that this was somehow connected to the disaster that could easily have destroyed an entire city and its inhabitants. But what worried the girl even more was that the shadow had the same energy as his skeleton friend. Trying to change the subject, Zhao Minwei thanked the boy for the strength he had helped her gain, which would allow her to improve her skills. Shen Ye, not knowing what to answer her, decided to ask about the video she sent, because he still didn't understand everything. Zhao Minwei immediately started to worry when it came to the video, because she didn't know where to start. She couldn't tell the guy everything because the situation was too complicated, and it was better for them not to interfere. But Shen Ye was determined to find out who these people were. However, the girl, ignoring his question, said that he had better go now, and promised that she would not tell anyone that he had been here. However, under pressure from the boyfriend, Zhao Minwei admitted that they were the children of influential people about whom she knew nothing. But Shen Ye did not believe her words, because he knew that she was also from a famous family and had some influence. The girl continued to stand her ground, arguing that their families were very different, despite the fact that they were both aristocratic. But Zhao Minwei immediately added that they would be punished for this. But the girl herself didn't like it, because this punishment meant that their parents would scold them, and maybe their family would get more respect for what they had done to them. Shen Ye, unable to contain his anger, reminded her that they had killed her brother and had almost killed themselves. Zhao Minwei, who was herself dissatisfied with the outcome, could do nothing about it because the families of the people involved were much more powerful than hers. But the girl immediately added that they were lucky that the hired killer turned out to be a crazy maniac who was focused on his own pleasure, not on the tasks. And with these words, she said that all the murderers were dead, and she hoped that her brother's spirit would rest in peace. And at that moment, she said goodbye to the boy. But both of them still continued to stand motionless, with a gap between them in the form of dead bodies. However, Shen Ye decided to ask, if she had the strength to defeat these children, she would decide to do so. Zhao Minwei, upon hearing his question, initially didn't know what to answer. However, being a realist, she understood that if she even tried to do anything, her family would be immediately destroyed. And that's exactly what she told the boy. However, not receiving a direct answer to his question from her, he told her not to evade it. He reminded her that her brother, he, and all these dead people had families, friends, children, plans for life. And in one moment, it all collapsed because someone wanted to play. Zhao Minwei, trembling just at the thought of it, couldn't help herself. Meanwhile, Shen Ye, standing in the rain, continued to say that human life was worth nothing to these people, and that he himself would avenge them all and make them pay with his blood. Immediately after his words, the girl took out her sword and waved it, illuminating half of the hotel. Immediately after that, the building began to collapse, and everything around was filled with dust. But the girl continued to stand motionless, holding her sword in her hand. And then she ran away. The skeleton, listening to their conversation, asked Shen Ye why he had brought her to tears and forced her to run away. Shen Ye, ignoring his words, said that everything was over and it was time to go back. When asked what he was going to do with this information, the guy said that at first he thought it was something serious, but in reality, it turned out to be just someone's games and there was nothing special about it. The skeleton, trying to contain his anger, said that he couldn't just leave it like that. But as he got on his motorcycle, the boy added that he would let them continue playing their games until he killed them and the souls of innocent people were put to rest, because only then would his heart find peace. The skeleton, satisfied with Shen Ye's words, asked him to wear a ring so that his appearance would not scare anyone. After that, Shen Ye turned to the secret voice and thanked it for what it had done for him. Meanwhile, one person was watching them the whole time, and it was the same girl who was saved by the boy, who was thinking about how much the boy had grown. After that, she assumed her true appearance, and she added that over time he became even more stupid than he was as a child. Suddenly, she heard a question coming from her headphones about whether she should approach him. When she said that it wasn't time yet, the voice said that he had saved her, and even given his motorcycle so that she could arrive safe and sound. And the voice immediately added that with her behavior, she had almost exposed him, and asked what she would do if he was caught. Trying to appease him, the girl said she would treat him to something. But he immediately realized that she needed something from him. The girl confirmed his assumption, asking him to hide from everyone, especially from her sister, that she was here, as well as the traces of Shen Ye's battle. The voice reminded her of the girl who had been there all this time, but she indifferently replied that she would not betray him. The voice wasted no time in getting to work, and immediately after that, the headphones transformed into the shadow of a dragon. And in a moment, everything was done, because he really wanted to eat something delicious. Immediately afterwards, Song Chen received a message from her sister saying that she was throwing a party and told her to hurry up. But the girl, having promised her assistant noodles, didn't even go to the party, despite the fact that she might have problems. After all, unlike her sister, she never felt comfortable at such events. And jumping down, she said that she was nothing but trash, worthless, thereby making the voice that knew it wasn't true laugh. Meanwhile, people's bodies hung over the bathtub, filling it with blood. In this bathtub was a living skin ripper, screaming in pain. Feeling the pain, he realized that he was alive, but he did not understand how it happened. Coming out of the bath, he turned to the great god and asked if he had helped resurrect him. And seeing in front of him the same monster that had saved him before, he immediately knelt down and began to thank him. But he immediately added that according to the agreement between them, he had already paid the appropriate price for his life. His words angered the monster so much that it, using its powers, began to torture him. Trying to calm him down, the boy said that he never doubted him. Having calmed down a little, the monster said that there was a certain azure, and it was inconvenient for him to appear in the dark. The man immediately fell to his knees again and began to apologize for not feeling someone else's presence next to him. The monster, who initially believed their world to be weak and worthless, would never have thought that there would be a human who could defeat him and seize his power. And he added that even other similar creatures have descended here and are hiding here. Hearing the monster fall silent, the man asked with fear in his voice where he was. Suddenly, the door opened and Zhao Yibin entered the room. While the girl was fixing her hair, the man continued to look at her and could not understand how this could be. After all, he understood that before him stood the same great god who had saved his life. When he said that he had done a good job this time, the man immediately knelt before him, saying that he would always serve him. The monster calmly asked him to take him into his world and show him all the secrets. And he added that he needed that guy's Shen Ye. Zhao Yibin didn't understand how the guy was able to defeat the Skinner, and added that she had been gathering this power for years, so she couldn't just give it away. And in order to get it back, she needed a lot of sacrifices. And looking at the wounded man, she assumed that he also felt this pain inside himself. She explained that this was punishment for the puppet she used to resurrect him. The man truly saw a mouth in his stomach that needed to be constantly fed, lest it eat his soul. Therefore, Zhao Yibin ordered him to go hunting and take 1,000 innocent souls. The man, who had already missed his hobby, immediately decided to carry out the order of the great god. Meanwhile, a bright glow flashed near the headquarters, which was caused by a guy's motorcycle, which was driving at high speed. Seeing a security guard who heard a strange noise, the guy said it was his motorcycle. The man said it was too noisy and asked him not to do it again at night. After that, the guy found himself in his room and was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. He could never have thought before that all these people were someone's game, because he had once helped 2 girls as a child. Suddenly, he heard his phone ring and saw that it was the Shen family calling him. When he picked up the phone, he heard the man introduce himself as his uncle. Shen Ye remembered his cold attitude towards his family very well. He also remembered that he was responsible for his family's daily affairs, and therefore did not understand why he was calling him. He learned that his mother had come to them to get medicine for him while he was in the hospital, and said that he could come any time, and then changed the subject, reminding him of the New Year's Eve he had when he was a child. When the boy replied that he remembered perfectly, his uncle said that he had caused a lot of trouble in the past, and therefore he should apologize to all the noble families. As he continued to listen, saying that he needed to apologize publicly to restore their family's authority, Shen Ye realized that this was the consequence of Xiao Manui telling others everything she knew about them. But at the same time, he understood that if he went to apologize, it would mean that he was admitting his wrongdoing, and then he will become the scapegoat, and his family will gain the favor of all these families, and his uncle will also receive his reward. But he still remembered that the hunt for him was not over, and it could threaten his family or Xiao Menyu. So the boy told his uncle that he didn't remember offending anyone, so he asked him to give him examples of when it happened and under what circumstances. But he was not going to answer the boy's questions and ordered him to do as he said, and the boy realized that they simply wanted to sell him for the benefit of his family. The uncle, hearing that he wanted something in exchange for his apology, asked what exactly he wanted, to which the boy replied that he had certain suspicions, and using his attribute of politeness, he asked what he was allowed to do. And after that, without mincing words, he said that he himself should please those people. The man wanted to say something else, but suddenly he hung up. Suddenly, Shen Ye received another phone call. But this time, it was a video call. A lady from an influential family called him and invited him to come to their party. What he saw even made the boy's nose bleed. Meanwhile, the girls continued to talk about how handsome he was and how they would like to meet him. The guy said it was too late now and he couldn't join. One of the girls said that was nonsense because she could send people to bring him, but he refused again, explaining that it was very dangerous for him. And the girl replied that he simply did not respect her sister. And while the girl wanted to say something else, the guy had already ended the video call. Shen Ye, realizing that news spreads very quickly in influential families, and everyone wants to see the person who saved the girl from an influential family, will therefore receive a lot of similar calls. Jumping onto the bed, the boy realized that these calls would soon start to get annoying, and he imagined that if he were a handsome, tall, and muscular guy, everyone would continue to look down on him. Suddenly, he saw a message that today he had the opportunity to gain a hidden ability. At that moment, the guy dreamed that he could just sit at home and the enemies would be destroyed by themselves. But he understood that to avenge innocent people and to survive himself, he needed strength. And he understood perfectly well that he needed to find ways to become as strong as possible. And at that moment, the clock struck midnight. And at that moment, the boy activated his gate, about to enter it. And after a while, the boy found himself in a dark forest. Not far from him, he saw a skeleton. Shen Ye, approaching him closer, asked why he had come out. The skeleton briefly said that it was time to say goodbye. After a pause, the boy confirmed his words, saying that he was now free and cured. The skeleton added that he now needs to return to the undead clan, as he has a lot of unfinished business. And finally, the skeleton decided to give him a farewell gift in the form of a ring to keep things safe. And at that moment, they thought they had said goodbye forever. And when the skeleton was gone, the boy said he hoped it would find a place to survive. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound and saw a bunch of birds flying in one direction. And the next moment, the sky was illuminated by a purple glow. Intuitively lying on the ground, the guy didn't understand what was happening. Suddenly, he recognized the voice of the skeleton. He assumed that the skeleton had already met its enemy, until suddenly he heard the voice fade away and assumed that the skeleton could not withstand even one blow. But realizing that he had come here not to hide, but to solve the problem, the guy got up and went on. And at that moment, he received a message that he had been found and added that if he ran away, it would affect the situation and he would not receive a third independent entry. And the next moment, thorns appeared around the boy, preventing him from escaping. And the next moment, a large, bony hand loomed over him. He saw a monster holding a skeleton skull in his hand. Shen Ye immediately asked the monster what he needed from Brother Fei Lun. The skeleton explained that the last time the boy helped him in the elf village, he failed all his tasks and left several graves of the undead, who came to him for revenge. Trying to get out of the situation, he said that Fei Lun had saved him, and for that, he decided to join him and take revenge on the evil people. The monster, mocking the boy's words, said that he could never betray them. Shen Ye, realizing that he could die at any moment, decided to show him proof that he had gained access to the highest echelons of humanity. The monster curiously examined the thing he had received from the boy, and he learned that this heroic badge is given to the last survivor in the palace, and the one who receives it receives the attribute holiness. And immediately after that, he saw next to the guy the nicknames he had received over all this time. The other monsters also couldn't believe that this guy was telling the truth until they saw the prince's badge. Meanwhile, the monster tried to find out from the boy where he got this thing, and immediately took the bony trap from him. Shen Ye, without taking his eyes off him, saw that his nickname was Death Star. Shen Ye, ignoring his question, said that he and Brother Fei Lun had already decided everything, and they needed to find an opportunity to kill the king. But even the metal did not convince the monster, who believed that he could never kill the King of Men. Shen Ye, wanting the undead to believe his words, said that they had a channel to access higher people, and to convince him, the boy handed him a letter of recommendation from the prince. The monster, no longer understanding anything, started shouting and asked the boy who he was, to which Shen Ye asked why he was attacking Fei Lun. The monster said that in the mission to kill the elf ruler, everyone was caught except him, and for this, he must be punished. Upon hearing the reason, the boy couldn't help but laugh out loud, and in an instant, the monster's red hand grabbed the boy's cheeks, preventing him from laughing. When asked why he was laughing, the boy said that he was very naive, because Fei Lun and the skeleton knew about the elves' trap, so they did not complete the task, thereby saving themselves and him. The skeleton, supporting the boy's words, said that there was no leader in the village, but instead, a high priest of the elves sat in his place. And to dispel the monster's doubts, he told them to check it out for themselves, because all the people know about him and that he visited the elves. The monster was so surprised by the words he heard that he let the boy go, because he couldn't believe that he was so famous among humans and elves. Meanwhile, the other undead were surprised that Fei Lun didn't know about the elves' trap for them. Therefore, after some time, the monster ordered one of his subordinates to check this information, and, turning to the boy, said that if it was a lie, he would die the most horrible death. After all, he wasn't going to believe his words that some boy who had become very famous could destroy all of humanity. Shen Ye, continuing to uphold his legend, confirmed his words and said that he had survived the day the tribe was founded. The monster, who didn't understand what he was talking about, asked what kind of day it was. Shen Ye said with a serious expression that he was the only person who was able to survive the development stage while showing his strength. The evil spirit continued to stare at him silently and in surprise, and trying to pretend that he understood everything, he asked his subordinates if they also understood everything, who did not even hide their lack of understanding. Finally believing the boy's words, he asked how exactly he was going to take the emperor's life. In response to his question, the boy said the number 996. And the evil spirit again didn't understand anything, so he told the boy to explain in more detail. He began to explain that you have to come to work at 9 o'clock, leave work at 9 o'clock at night, have a break for lunch and dinner of less than 1 hour, a total working time of 10 hours, and this happens 6 days a week. The monster, realizing how difficult and time-consuming it was, said it was very cruel. Shen Ye said that he then felt a 007 on him. The evil spirit listened with fear on its face as the boy worked from midnight to midnight, 7 days a week without breaks. Moved by the boy's story, the monster even decided to hug him. The monster, who perfectly understood what he had to go through, told how he was able to cope with all this horror. Continuing to be an actor, Shen Ye talked about a day in his life. He said that one winter day, he had only 1 box of matches with him. Suddenly, he saw a message that the monster would now promote his story, of which he had now become a part, and received the nickname, The Boy Who Sells Matches. Shen Ye, who couldn't accept the nickname, The Boy Who Survived, wasn't going to wear that stupid nickname. But trying to calm down, he continued his story about how Fei Lun had found and saved him that very day, so now he would protect him for the rest of his life. And at that moment, one of the monster's subordinates came and said that everything the guy said was true. And at that moment, the other evil spirits realized that Fei Lun was right about the elves' trap and made the right choice, that he had switched to the side of humanity and helped the boy, who had gained great respect among the people. Listening to all their thoughts, the monster realized that he would not be able to carry out the execution order, because then gossip would start that he did not respect the merits of the warriors, so he could not punish Fei Lun. But on the other hand, due to his actions, only the head remained of the skeleton, and in order to restore its strength, a lot of expenses were required. But the monster was not going to spend its savings, so he decided to praise him, saying that he was a brave warrior and decided to give him a medal for it. And turning to Shen Ye, he said that from now on he would be called the Boy Who Sells Matches, to hide his other nickname, the Boy Who Survived. And after these words, the monster smiled and added that he was proud of them. After that, the evil spirits were about to go and report all these events to the top. And in the meantime, Shen Ye could not believe that they would leave Fei Lun in such a state, but they were no longer even visible. To which the skeletons said that evil spirits were usually eliminated in this state. But fortunately, the skeleton still had some strength. And besides, the guy promised that he would soon give him these pills that he had bought for him. And after that, the skeleton decided to ask if there really were such terrible capitalists in the human world, to which the guy said that it was partly true and asked why he was so worried about people. He explained that the undead take a lot from the human world, and if capitalists appeared in humanity, then they will also soon appear in their world. Shen Ye was about to say something when suddenly he received a message that he had been found again, and this time it was the warriors of humanity who ordered him not to move. They all considered him a traitor to humanity, because he was caught red-handed for colluding with the undead. Shen Ye, not knowing what to do, saw a familiar face among the warriors. He saw the angry prince, who gave him the nickname, the Boy Who Lived. He personally wanted to know what was happening here, and ordered him not to lie, because he would personally kill him for it. Shen Ye, having already come up with a story, said that the skeleton is his informant and trophy collection officer of the 5th Battalion of the Skeleton Army, and it is he who reports to him about all the affairs of the undead. People were skeptical of his words because they had never seen a person make a pact with an undead. The elderly man said that he was not lying because he personally monitored his words and found no lies there. Immediately after that, the warriors began to whisper among themselves that they had never seen a person make a pact with an undead. Suddenly, he saw a familiar elf girl again, who asked if he was really receiving information about the undead from the skeleton. And upon hearing his answer, the girl said that she believed his words because she felt his soul was filled with emotions of anger and firm faith, so he could not be a puppet of the undead. After that, the prince turned to the skeleton, asking why he had made a treaty with him. but Shen Ye answered instead, saying that he had been treated unfairly by the undead. The skeleton, trying to support the boy's words, said that he had survived 996. The prince, as well as the monster, a few minutes ago, did not understand what this number meant. The skeleton said that he was treated unfairly, and that perhaps people don't even suspect that capitalists also live among the undead. And he decided to explain that he was just a poor undead, lacking the means of production and tools for enrichment. So he was forced to transfer his labor power to the owners of the means in order to somehow survive. The old man confirmed his words again, saying that the undead do not die or get tired, so for the manufacturer, they are the best objects to work with. Having figured this out, the prince returned to the number 996 and asked again what it meant. And the skeleton relayed all the words Shen Ye had spoken to the monster. The prince, listening attentively to his story, also said that it was very cruel, and then he added that he even survived 007. And after people heard what this number meant, they felt even more sorry for the monster, because they felt very sorry for him. The prince could not stand it and decided to support the skeleton, whose eyes were already filled with tears. After that, the prince asked how he understood him and asked how he managed to survive. The skeleton, with tears in his eyes, continued to talk about what the boy had said a few minutes ago. He also said that when he was able to escape, he met a boy selling matches. Shen Ye, upon hearing this, told people not to pay attention to these matches, realizing that the nickname would become even more entrenched for him. But the skeleton decided to change the story a bit, and said that the boy used the last matches to light a fire for him, thereby saving him and showing how kind people can be. And that's why he decided to resist. Immediately after that, the boy received a message that they congratulated him on the fact that his nickname was becoming more and more entrenched, along with the nickname Unbending Boy. When the prince next asked how he could prove his identity, the skeleton handed him the medal he had received from the undead a few minutes earlier. The old man immediately took it, checking it for truthfulness. After verifying that it was all true, the man explained that he was not lying. The prince was very happy about this, because he had never seen an undead unite with a human. After that, the prince approached Shen Ye and said that he remembered that after being injured, he lost his memory and could not remember his name. So as a prince, he should give him a new name. The warriors were very surprised by this, because they knew how great an honor it was to receive a name from the crown prince. Meanwhile, the prince tried to think of a suitable name for him. Shen Ye, listening to his options, asked him not to let his name begin with Ha, and in the end, the prince named him Roly, which didn't upset Shen Ye much. But the prince could see from the boy's face that he didn't really like the name. Therefore, he decided to explain that in the history of mankind, there are two legendary children, and as soon as trouble strikes, they will come to save them. Their names were Roly and Peaky, so he said that if he didn't want to be Raleigh, he would become Peaky. Shen Ye remembered that the peaks were the brand of his old hairdryer, which looked like a pig. Immediately after that, all the warriors stood in a circle and shone with a bright light. At this moment, the prince took an oath from the boy that he would never betray humanity, otherwise he would perish, and after that he would become the most famous person in the world, and if he accomplished a feat, he would receive the title of Saint. Shen Ye, imagining his silly nicknames changing to Saint, thought this was a pretty good offer. Therefore, without any hesitation, he immediately began to swear, and as soon as this happened, he immediately shone with a bright light that blinded everyone present. The old man congratulated the boy and also made him happy that after the ceremony, he would have to choose a new name. But the new name didn't change much because it was Saint Peaky. Immediately after that, the prince said that today's adventure had not happened and ordered him to be more careful. And if he performed a feat, he could ask him for anything. And after that, he handed Shen Ye the letter. He explained that this is a magical writing, and everything written on it immediately synchronizes with his writing, and in the event of an important situation, he can provide important information. Shen Ye promised to serve faithfully and had already imagined how to use this writing. And telling the boy to be more careful, the prince ordered his soldiers to follow him. But in the end, the girl said that his name holds a great secret. She explained that according to legend, Picky's weapon could change, sometimes to something no one had ever seen before. And after that, she advised him to train a lot to master the weapon and become a true master. When asked if many people had the same name, the girl said that she knew only 5 people and that they were distinguished only by the adjectives of this word. But after that, she added that he was a special Peaky, because this name was given to him by the prince himself. And finally, after this conversation, they said goodbye. The skeleton, addressing the boy by his new name, said that they needed to go back, to which the boy said that he probably wanted to die since he called him by that name. Not understanding why the boy was angry, the skeleton continued to stare at him while he activated the gate. The skeleton, moving into the ring, still continued to tease the boy, who threatened to withhold the pill from him. Suddenly, when the boy tried to enter the gate, something strange happened that prevented him from doing so. Shen Ye asked the skeleton what he was doing. Suddenly, he received a message congratulating him that he had survived, and had even stopped fighting with humans and the undead. And he also learned that the undead had left him a white bone badge, and the prince had given him a new name and performed a sacred ceremony. And this means that both great nations consider him their own. And because he got the same ability 3 times in a row, the gate got a hidden ability. Once inside, he saw a message that the gate would be able to freeze time on one side for a few seconds, while nothing happened on the other. But the guy was disappointed that this opportunity could only be used once a week. But then Shen Ye received a message that it could be improved by achieving greater success. He was immediately shown a trial version, which did not count towards his attempts. Shen Ye immediately wondered what the skeleton felt. And after that, he found himself in his room and went to bed, realizing that it was already 6 o'clock and he would have to get up soon. But just as he was about to fall asleep, he heard a knock on the door. The man introduced himself as Qian Zhushan and told him to get ready because they were going to take an exam. And after some time, the guy found himself on a flying ship that was supposed to take him to the exam site. Inside him, the boy was trying to get at least a little sleep. But here too, he failed to do this because someone called him. He saw a message from Zhao Yibing, who said that she had the opportunity to enter the best institutions and said that they would see each other soon. This news greatly surprised Shen Ye, who did not understand where she had the right to take the exam. Suddenly, he noticed that the girl looked very strange and assumed it was because she had purple hair. When I asked Mr. Qian about her, he said that he knew this girl and that she had gotten a chance to enter 3 top universities. He said he learned that she had an incredible talent that had long been hidden by the Archaeological Association. This association was a very important organization. It was responsible for excavating various ruins, searching for humanity's past, and finding and preserving weapons knowledge. But the guy still didn't believe that this girl had any special talent. And besides, Zhao Menyui was investigating this case, so maybe she also knew some information. No longer wanting to sleep, the boy pondered the information he had received. Remembering that he had brought the girl to tears last time, he thought she wouldn't want to talk to him. But in the end, he decided to call her, and in any case, he would apologize for his behavior. And at his urging, she picked up the phone and acted as if nothing had happened. So the guy immediately asked about Zhao Yibin. But what he heard next completely surprised him, because the girl said that Zhao Yibin had already died. Shen Ye immediately said that he received a message from her that she wanted to enter the top 3 universities. Zhao Menyui said that she would also be taking the exam, and said that they would talk when they met. Mr. Qian said the exam will be in 10 hours. And finally, the girl said that he should never meet Zhao Yibin alone, because she is very dangerous. Without looking up from his book, Mr. Qian asked if Xiao Mengyu had called him. He said that the shine of Zhao Menyui's sword was seen in the sky tonight, which meant that she had made great progress in her studies. Shen Ye, surprised by the news he heard, remembered that she managed to do this with the help of the power of her patron saint. But then the guy got angry that people from rich families get access to knowledge earlier than ordinary people, and despite the fact that they are almost the same age, he still doesn't have this knowledge, unlike her. These words were confirmed by Mr. Qian, who again did not even look up from his book. Understanding this gap between them, he had no idea how he would be able to successfully pass the exam. But the man tried to calm him down, saying that despite the fact that he was not receiving any support from his family, and even on the contrary was suffering from their persecution, he said that their organization would help him. Shen Ye thanked him for his support, but in his mind, he thought that he was just afraid that he would leave their organization, which was why he was so worried about him. And Mr. Qian again began to talk about the girl's successes, but the boy could not listen to this, so he went to sleep. But he failed to do this again, because a message came to his phone again. And as expected, it was Zhao, who really wanted to meet the guy alone, so the guy refused, saying he would only arrive tomorrow. But the girl was persistent, so he got the message. Zhao Yibin said that she was in the same place as him, so she suggested that they meet again. Shen Ye, after reading her message, assumed that this was a complicated coincidence, so he said that on the way they would stop at a temple. But the girl didn't calm down and sent the guy another message. She wrote that she was also going to visit the same temple and suggested having dinner there. Shen Ye knew perfectly well that this temple was hundreds of kilometers away from where she was now, and he had no idea how she could get there so quickly. Shen Ye, tired from all these events, had no desire to respond to her messages, so, throwing away his phone, he decided he would talk to her after he got some sleep. And flying past the very temple he had spoken of, He believed that now it would do him no harm. Meanwhile, the girl, standing next to the Skinner, was still waiting for a message from Shen Ye because she was going to get hers back at any cost. At that moment, she happened to be near the same temple that Shen Ye was talking about. Meanwhile, the boy had a dream about his childhood and his new year, which he spent with his entire Shen family. He remembered how a giant monster was chasing two little girls, and to his surprise, he, unafraid of the monster, came to their defense. But this did not stop the animal, and it attacked Shen Ye. And after a while, he found himself in the hospital, and the first ones he saw were his parents. He also mentioned that the girls made him cards as a thank you. They said it was time for them to go home, but they were very happy to spend their time with him. Shen Ye also prepared a card for them and gave it to them, and after that, he said goodbye to them as they drove away from him in the car. Suddenly, his sleep was interrupted by Mr. Qian calling out to him. He told the sleepy boy that it was time to eat. Shen Ye, thinking about the dream for the first time in 10 years, wondered what had happened to them in all this time. And after a while, when the boy saw the amount of food, he couldn't believe his eyes. So he immediately started eating everything very quickly, while Mr. Qian looked at him strangely. And after a while, having eaten almost all the food, the boy was finally full. Suddenly, a guy approached him and asked if he could finish the leftovers. And as soon as Shen Ye allowed him to eat, he immediately began to quickly finish them. When asked about the need to take care of everyone on the airship, the man explained that it was not only their organization that was traveling on it, but also other societies. Without stopping eating, the boy introduced himself as being from the United Society of Eternal Life. Meanwhile, Mr. Qian addressed the gentleman, calling his name, and as soon as the boy heard it, he immediately realized that his mentor was standing next to them. The man also recognized Mr. Qian and couldn't help but be surprised that the man took on a newcomer this year. But he was even more surprised because the man took 7 people. After that, the situation became tense, and Mr. Qian said they would go talk to him. After that, the boy called Shen Ye to show him an interesting place on the airship. He took him to a place where he could go bowling, which he offered to do. Suddenly, Guo Yunye showed him a card he had never seen before. He saw an inscription on it that in order to get a unique card, he had to eat free food from 7 other candidates. Shen Ye, still not understanding what it was, asked the boy about it. The man, surprised that he had never heard of it, put the card in his palm. And immediately after that, the same card appeared in Shen Ye's hand. Shen Ye noticed that he immediately had a task. Guo Yunye explained that once he completed them, he would be able to become a permanent member of the card set. Guo Yunye, looking at the boy's face and hearing his question about what the benefit was, couldn't understand how he had even gotten into the exam. He explained that the Tarot Tower is an arbitration body, and for this exam, this set of cards is equal to the exam assistance system they have released. And by completing the tasks, he will be able to gain unique knowledge about the exams. And the guy added that if his grade is in the middle, it will only benefit him. After all, with its help, you can not only get extra points on exams, but also get constant attention from the outside, and also gain great popularity, thanks to which you will have sponsors. Shen Ye was already looking at the map with interest, thinking about how he could complete the task. He read the first task and realized that he needed to find 6 applicants who would volunteer to participate in an event he was organizing. Shen Ye immediately started looking for these people, but suddenly came across a ventilation shaft, and he immediately had a plan that he shared with his new friend. And trying to complete the first task, he suggested that he compete with him to see who could touch the ventilation the best. Guo Yunye didn't have to be persuaded for long, so he immediately decided to try it. But unfortunately, he didn't manage to touch the ventilation. And now it was Shen Ye's turn to try to touch the ventilation. But he failed to do that either. Their screams attracted the attention of others present, who watched with curiosity what they were doing. Some of them thought they were delusional, because it was too high up and they simply wouldn't be able to reach it. But some of them were overconfident and believed that they could easily touch the ventilation. Therefore, some immediately decided to prove it to those who said it was impossible. One guy was followed by another, who took it as his own challenge. And later, several more people ran after him, but none of them were able to even touch the ventilation with their fingertips. Shen Ye, looking at their unsuccessful attempts, saw a notification come to him that he had completed the first task, and so he received a new task. And this time, he needed 12 people to participate in his event. After thinking for a while, the guy decided to say that the martial arts organization had prepared bonuses for them. This immediately interested many, so they began to listen attentively to the guy who said he would give them a free lecture so they could recognize deception. Each of them took cards with phrases that are commonly used in conversation with women and men. One of them realized that this was true because he had heard a similar phrase from his girlfriend once. Taking the opportunity, Shen Ye told them to be careful with the girls because they were very cunning. But what scared the boys the most was that the guy said they could even film them on their phones. He added that since he was a master, he already had similar experience and asked the other guys to be careful. So when they started asking him questions, he answered them confidently. All the boys gathered around and listened attentively to his advice. But after a while, the questions became too many. So the guy said they needed to learn to tell the difference between when girls really liked them and when they didn't. The girls watched from a distance at the boys' strange behavior. All this time, they were being watched by their leaders, one of whom thought it was all nonsense, and the others said that they wouldn't have time for all this later, so let them have fun. They knew about the maps, so they were sure that this was how the guy completed the task. Meanwhile, Mr. Chien decided to seize the moment and ask why he was recruiting so many students. He said that there was an explosion in several regions, and many craftsmen died. So the government decided to gather the most talented students and give them a chance to show themselves. And even if they don't succeed, they get their support. Mr. Chien was very worried about this, because children from rich families would also be there, and according to the rules, it was not forbidden to kill other students, which is why there were several accidents last year. The man replied that it was not in their power to interfere with this, so he advised him to simply act according to the circumstances. After a while, the guy went out onto the balcony to admire the view, and looking at the map, Shen Ye saw that an image of a black skull appeared. It was a spare card, which all new players get, but the guy didn't understand why he looked like a thief. The guy, who didn't understand why he needed an official rookie card, saw a message saying it would guarantee him a spot at the top 3 schools, but the total number of cards was 5 times less than the number of applicants who wanted to enter the school. Suddenly remembering that family heirlooms also have cards, he remembered one of his acquaintances. She was Zhao Menhui, and the heiress of the Luo family whose strength level was 5 stars. Shen Ye, knowing how many stars she had, didn't understand why she had such a cool card, unlike his. Seeing that he had the opportunity to add her as a friend, he decided to take advantage of it. She immediately accepted his request, and they were immediately able to communicate using the card. Shen Ye explained that he was sad on the plane, so his friend gave him this card. Zhao Menhui couldn't help but notice that the guy's image was a thief's, and she explained that the card image was created automatically. Before saying goodbye to the guy, the girl advised him to review the ratings of the other participants. He decided to take her advice, and was surprised to learn that Zhao Menhui was only in 5th place. So he decided to look at the map of Nangong, and saw that it had 6 stars. Looking at the beautiful picture, he thought that this was a very pretty girl, but in a moment his eyes widened as soon as he realized it was a man. Looking at the ranking list again, he realized that he also needed to increase the number of stars. He, who knew perfectly well what a rating was and how to increase it, began to think about what he should do. Therefore, first of all, he decided to try the technique of freezing the lunar sky. The guy, having activated this technique, immediately saw how it glowed purple. After that, he did several tricks and kicks, and immediately after that, the deer under the moon was activated, and the boy now glowed with a green light. He received a message that despite the flaws and uncertainties, it seemed like a long-lost technique, and because of this, he increased his rating by 1 star. And thanks to this, he became an official member of the deck, and now he has the opportunity to refuse 1 challenge per hour. And along with 1 star, his image was changed. But the guy didn't like this image even more than the last one, believing that he looked too self-confident for a star. Immediately after that, he received friend requests from his recent acquaintances, and he immediately accepted them. They were very surprised that the boy received his 1st star so quickly, and so they immediately wanted to meet him, but the guy didn't understand all the fuss over 1 star. He said he was busy right now, so he wouldn't be able to meet them. But the news of his 1st star did not go unnoticed by Mr. Chien, who was already next to Shen Ye. Ms. Chien was very surprised that he received the 1st star so quickly, and said that it was a good thing she took him under her care. And after that, he pointed his finger in front of him, and said that they had finally arrived. Shen Ye, looking where the man was pointing, could not believe his eyes, because he saw an island in the air in front of him. Shen Ye, who had never heard of such an island, learned that it was the Cloud Port, and the man added that previously it was the inner part of ancient ruins, and after excavations, it became a port city, and again pointed his finger. He said that these were not excavated ancient ruins, and one of the most prestigious universities is located in these ruins. He said that the teachers and students of this university study history to find out what happened to their world. Suddenly, light rays appeared in the sky, flying chaotically to the side. Mr. Chien explained that this way, the examiners are watching them, and by looking at his behavior, he can then get help during the exam. Shen Ye couldn't believe it was true, so he asked the man if it was true. He also added that after today's banquet, they would be teleported to the exam, so he advised him to show his best side. When asked by the guy what format the exam would be in and how long it would last, The man didn't know what to say, because it doesn't change every year. For example, last year there was one written exam that lasted only 45 minutes, and another year there was an outdoor survival exam that lasted 3 months. To at least somehow reassure the boy, he said that he would gain an advantage with the help of 1 star. But which one exactly was also difficult to say, because they also change. And at that very moment, he received a message that it became known that he was one of the newcomers. And immediately after that, he received his first task, which was to take a green dragon in the sea to ride on the clouds. Seeing the boy's surprised face, he said that he could not complete all the tasks, despite the promise of a high reward, and he explained that only children from noble families can perform such tasks, because they have enough resources for this. Shen Ye had to accept the injustice for ordinary people, so he missed this task. But the next task of killing demons, which would last 10 years and rewrite 800,000 volumes, made the boy even more nervous. Suddenly, he saw a task suitable for him, which told him to fight to the last and quickly increase his rating. And despite this, the task could not be missed. But here too the man upset the boy, saying that children from noble families receive the best weapons, so he would not be able to fulfill it so easily. And he immediately decided to show the boy what he would have to face. Looking where the man was pointing, he saw a guy with good armor and weapons standing over a guy they had recently met. Shen Ye was about to run to help him, not understanding why no one was doing so. But suddenly, Mr. Qian stopped him, saying that there were medics for that. And he added that if a person dies, it will change the situation very much, and therefore he will not be allowed to take the exam and may even be imprisoned. That is why only the strongest and most deserving will be able to break through and gain respect. Mr. Qian hadn't planned to call him here so early, but since they were trying to kill him, he needed to know that security was at the highest level. And in an instant, Shen Ye received a new rating of drowning. And this assessment means that a person is in very great danger and can die without realizing it, which contradicted the words of Mr. Qian, who said that it was very safe here. Continuing to look at the card, the boy wondered who exactly wanted to kill him. The children of noble families who decided to play with him, or his opponents in the exam. And the subsequent message that someone was challenging him completely disturbed Shen Ye. But what surprised him most was that this opponent was Xiao Mingyue. The guy sincerely didn't understand why the girl did it. Suddenly, a familiar voice caught his attention, and he immediately raised his head. Standing in front of him was Xiao Mingyue, whom Shen Ye had just been thinking about. Mr. Qian, not intending to disturb them, said that he would leave and not turn off the light, but the boy replied that they were just friends. First of all, the girl thanked him for curing her, and with this, she improved her skills. And when he asked why she challenged him to a duel, the girl suggested he find a better place to talk. She took him to the training room, where he could talk comfortably, because it had good soundproof. Suddenly, they saw one girl fly into a wall very hard, thereby destroying it. Shen Ye immediately tensed up and wondered what was going on here. Meanwhile, the girl continued to stand by the wall and asked why he was competing with her if he knew that she had a much better weapon. The girl was indifferent to her words, saying that it was necessary to raise his rating. Shen Ye immediately recognized her, remembering that she had 4 stars and was ranked 17th. Suddenly, the girl's attention was drawn to Shen Ye himself, who also had 1 star. And just as she wanted to do the same thing as with the girl, Xiao Mingyue stood in front of him and said that he was hers. The girl, not knowing Xiao Mingyue and her place in the ranking, became angry upon hearing her words. The girl repeated once again that Shen Ye belonged to her. These words made the girl very angry, so she decided to deal with Xiao Mingyue. And as she approached her, the girl calmly drew her sword, and in one fell swoop she threw the girl away from her and left her without clothes. What he saw shocked everyone else present, and when they found out that the girl was 5th in the ranking, they all immediately ran away from her. Seeing how the girl beat up a man with 1 star, he asked if she would do the same to him. She jokingly said yes, but then explained that if she competed with him, no one else would be able to beat him. And to confirm her words, she showed a card that said the guy was currently in battle, so no one else could fight him. Shen Ye wondered why the other participants didn't do the same. Xiao Mingyue said that this was not entirely true, and added that they would be able to fight him if they could defeat her, thereby stopping the fight. This really calmed the guy down because he knew how strong the girl was. The guy decided to ask what would happen if someone scored more points than her. Xiao Mingyue explained that it would be very difficult and said that then that person would simply be forced to give up the points. Hearing her words, Shen Ye was once again convinced that strength was the best argument. And finally, entering the training room, the guy said that he would like one too, to which the girl replied that it was only available to noble families, and people like him would simply be thrown out of here. Shen Ye was very angry upon hearing this, because he was tired of the world only revolving around representatives of noble families. Trying to calm him down, Zhao Menui decided to start a conversation about Zhao Yubin. The guy immediately forgot about it and remembered the girl who, while dead, was able to write him a message. Zhao Menyu recalled that as soon as she took her to the Skinner, she died immediately. But upon hearing the next news, he was even more surprised when he learned that the shadow that came out of the body of the Slayer had also come out of Zhao Yibin's body earlier. Therefore, they both assumed that the Skinner was also alive and that the girl was going to take the exams. Therefore, she once again asked the boy to be very careful, because the girl was now not human. The guy asked why they didn't inform Kunlun, to which the girl replied that she had already done so, but had not received any answer, since they had no business with the death of an ordinary person. Shen Ye knew that the girl was right, because when he called the police to ask for help in finding the girl's mother, he also received no answer. Meanwhile, Zhao Menui continued to talk about someone making a deal with the Skinner to take his body. Shen Ye couldn't believe that a person had such great strength, until suddenly, the girl changed the subject and said that her relatives wanted her to get married already. She added that one of the suitors, one of the influential uncles, had recently turned 50 and his wife had recently died. Shen Ye was most upset by this news and told the girl not to agree under any circumstances. Zhao Menui sadly replied that she said she needed a few days to think about it, and she explained this by saying that she was too weak to resist them and that she was definitely not going to get married until she entered one of the 3 universities. These words calmed Shen Ye down a little. Who thought that his family was in the worst shape because he was being forced to apologize for something he didn't do, realized that the Luo family was in much worse shape. After that, the girl asked him if he had already chosen a university, and when she found out that he hadn't yet, she advised him to understand that before entering university, ordinary people cannot learn special skills. The next moment, the girl said that she could teach him the skills of her clan, and at that moment, the glow of her sword flashed near the surprised boy, who had not expected such a proposal. Without wasting any time, the girl immediately began demonstrating one of the techniques that allowed her to move incredibly fast. Stopping, the girl explained that this blade method was called Lin Bo, and suggested that the boy learn it. But Shen Ye was in no hurry to agree, because he was worried that the girl would be harmed for passing on her family's techniques to him. Zhao Menui even froze when she heard the boy's words, because she had never thought about it before. In reality, many families would give anything to get her family's equipment, and when the boy had such a chance, he was in no hurry to take it. Shen Ye smiled and said that he didn't want her to get into trouble. The girl, embarrassed by his words, told him not to worry, but at the same time, she was pleased that he was worried about her. And finally, the boy learned that he would like to learn, but he doesn't have a blade. But Zhao Menui remembered that he had a sword when he fought the Skinner, to which the boy replied that he had lost it. Zhao Menui had not thought about the blade before, and did not want to return home because it was too risky. And the girl also realized that you can't go far with just one blade technique, so she decided to teach the guy other techniques, and the girl began to count them. Until suddenly, the guy heard the familiar Thunder Fist technique. Zhao Menui explained that this technique is as fast and powerful as thunder and lightning, and only 7 families possess it. Shen Ye remembered that mastering this technique would allow him to improve his abilities, but he still didn't understand how the girl knew about it, so he asked where this technique came from in the first place. She explained that she was found on an island, floating in the air in one of the abandoned towers. The girl added that this is an extremely difficult technique, but with its help, you can master other skills. The girl said that she had previously studied both movements and techniques, one of which she was now going to show Shen Ye. And because he will now be practicing his awakening, he gets an extra 10 points. Meanwhile, the girl skillfully demonstrated the Thunder Fist technique. After a while, she finished and looked at Shen Ye and asked if he was surprised. But to her great surprise, the guy said that this technique didn't look that extraordinary, and he asked her if she had made any mistakes. The girl said that anyone who masters this technique may never think about their diet again, and immediately asked where he thought she had gone wrong. Shen Ye immediately began to point out where he thought she had made a mistake. To the great surprise of both of them, he managed to do this trick without mistakes the first time. The girl admitted that she was the best with the sword, but when it came to hand movements, she didn't attract much attention. So she handed the guy a book with Thunder Fist techniques that she had recently read. After picking up the book, the boy received a message that this item was green, which meant that it was very rare. Having received a message that a certain number of points is required for a certain level of mastery of this technique, He understood why children of noble families engage in awakening from childhood. Therefore, having enough points for a low level, the guy immediately decided to master it. Zhao Menui, looking at how quickly the boy learned, said that it would affect his tarot card. And when the boy took out his card, he really saw how his image changed again. And thanks to his high level of awakening, he can now change looks and outfits. But the next image turned out to be the worst of all. Zhao Menui, trying not to show her laughter, said that the card had laughed at him. But when he reached 4 stars, his attributes would improve greatly. Out of anger, the boy threw the card on the ground and started calling her names, and the girl said that it could affect his grade. Hearing this, the boy quickly picked up the card from the floor and began kissing it and apologizing. Then, suddenly seeing that the clock said 11 o'clock, he remembered that an acquaintance of his had asked him to come to his place that evening. And before leaving, the guy decided to ask Xiao Minyu if she would continue the investigation into the skin peeler. And upon hearing that she would continue the investigation, the guy said goodbye to her. But when he arrived at Mr. Qian's room, he found out that he had left. So the assistant handed him his room card. Shen Ye wasn't too upset about not meeting his friend, as he would have time to improve his newly mastered technique. Shen Ye did not expect that he would master the techniques the secret voice spoke of so quickly. But even that wasn't enough for him now. He wanted to learn all the secrets and master all possible techniques. Suddenly, the boy heard the voice of a skeleton from the ring, asking why he always mastered such worthless techniques. And in response to the boy's question, he explained that Thunder Fist is traumatic. Deer Under the Moon is the basic technique of elves, and Frost Strike is not capable of inflicting a blow, so it will not help in battle. Surprised, Shen Ye silently listened to the skeleton's advice to enter a military academy, where he would learn truly useful skills. But the boy couldn't get out of his head what the skeleton had said, that he was using the Thunder Fist from the world of horror. After all, the guy didn't understand why nothing worked out for him because he took into account all the shortcomings. And suddenly, he felt something start to happen to him. As he dropped the book to the floor, he saw something growing out of his skin. Unable to stand, the boy fell to the floor and began to make incomprehensible sounds. The skeleton tried to find out what was wrong with the boy, but he couldn't say anything. The guy couldn't even breathe, and his consciousness was leaving him. And the last thing Shen Ye remembered was the feeling of death. With these thoughts, he fell motionless to the ground while the skeleton tried to understand what was happening to him. But after a while, a blue glow blinded his body. After that, he felt an incredible cold and didn't understand where it was coming from. He assumed it was the cold breath he had learned, but he needed to maintain his own breathing or he would die. Cold breathing is a new way of breathing that sets every organ in his body in motion. At this moment, he felt that until now, his breathing had been vague and unclear, and had only supported basic functions. Suddenly, the boy saw something in front of him that he had never seen before. But a voice sounded in his head that said that this was a magical world. And after that, the guy gradually began to come to his senses, and he received a message congratulating him on mastering the magical world technique, Divine Radiance Under the Moon. He also learned that this technique is considered an exclusive skill, and furthermore, his scores increased significantly with the acquisition of this technique. And despite the bruises and cuts on his body, his skin was quickly recovering. He also received a message that he had opened a magic eye, and that when he raised all his characteristics to 20 points, he would receive the rating of Real Person. And to his surprise, this technique was purple in color, which meant it was very unique and hidden. He also received the Frostbite technique, which slows down the opponent's movements when hit. Flowing Moon is a mixture of jerks and jumps of the main techniques, which can be decomposed into a series of ghostly images. Thunderstrike is a palm strike that has great destructive power. With the help of Sky Shadow, a person can hide in the shadow of a person or object, and can only be found if the enemy has the ability to see shadows everywhere. The guy, unable to hold back his laughter, could not even imagine before that he would be able to obtain all 4 techniques at once. Shen Ye was glad that he had spent so much time transitioning between worlds, but he did not understand where this technique came from. Realizing that he didn't need to worry about it now, he decided to wash the blood from his body. He was surprised that he had not yet died from the blows he had inflicted, which were fatal. And he also noticed that his eyes had changed. And besides, now he could see all the ratings that people had given him. But suddenly his attention was caught by a red thread around his neck. And upon his question, a message immediately came that this divine technique was from another world. And when an opponent appeared within a radius of 250 kilometers, the opponent could immediately move towards it. Meanwhile, bets were placed in the casino, and the failed assassination of Shen Ye was discussed. Therefore, those present decided to call the Assassins' Alliance, One of the attendees asked Sai Wu why the informant had been revealed, to which he explained that the best performer was very passionate about art, so he did not pay enough attention to the task, and he added that he had already paid the price, paying with his life. Another person present said that Shen Ye had arrived for the exam, and he hoped that this time the man would not fail them. After bowing, the man said that this time Shen Ye would be finished, and if not, he would personally behead himself. And after that, the call with the Assassin's Alliance was completed. But the man understood that he shouldn't rely on the killers, as they were unreliable, and he needed to personally monitor the case. The man wanted to get rid of Shen Ye so that he would not harm his family again. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Assassin Alliance, Zai Wu is already entangled in a red thread. In the next moment, his head was separated from his entire body. But his flesh was not tasty, unlike the children of the heirs, who had been fed medicine since childhood. And besides this man, he killed many others. And suddenly, his mistress, Zhao Yibin, entered. She asked if he had really made a promise to someone without asking her. The Skinner just bowed his head guiltily and said he hadn't thought about it. But she didn't need his explanation and said that her followers should believe in their promises, even if they lie. The Skinner replied that he would send the old man's head to Yangshan to fulfill his promise. Meanwhile, the girl changed the topic to Shen Ye, knowing that he was already at the port. So she asked her husband if he wanted to eat the heirs of rich families. And since the girl needed many souls to restore her strength, she said that the flesh would belong to him and the soul to her. The man, thanking his mistress for her generosity, said that she didn't need to worry about it and that he could handle them himself. The girl said that he found her spell, which means that he has another powerful creature besides the undead. And she added that now, with his current strength, the Skin Ripper would quickly turn to ashes, and even she wouldn't be able to resurrect him. They still had to not only take Shen Ye's soul, but also find out who exactly was behind it. At that time, the girl took her equipment away from the guy so that he wouldn't find it. He saw a message that the next time a person used this technique, he wouldn't even notice it. And he realized that the same thread was on the skin flayer, and he realized that he was still alive. And only now did he understand why the map had rated him as a drowned man. His card changed again, and now, instead of himself, he saw a deer, and the rating, victim walking into a trap. Shen Ye was surprised by how intelligent the card was, that it could see and sense his condition. But the next moment, the map changed again, and he received a message that he now had 5 stars, and his place was 11th in the ranking. The guy couldn't believe he was able to jump from 2 stars to 5. He immediately received a message again that he could hide the true number of stars, and also that the final score before the exam would give special power to use in the exam. And he also saw that because of the quote hidden eye, all his other indicators were sharply raised to 5 stars. Shen Ye decided to first hide the true number of stars, so that his enemies would not go anywhere. After all, he understood perfectly well that in battle, you shouldn't rely on your rating on the card, because even a weak person can defeat a strong one. And besides, he needed to look for ways to advance, because the Skin Scraper and Zhao Yibin could attack him at any moment. Suddenly, Mr. Qian called him. As soon as he picked up the phone, he heard the man screaming that he hadn't been able to reach him all day, and that if it weren't for the camera footage, he would have already been looking for him with his dogs. The guy, surprised that he had been missing for a whole day, said that he had been with his family. After some time, Shen Ye came to Mr. Qian, who was going to tell him about the 3 best universities, so that the boy could decide where it was best for him to enter. Keelan is engaged in excavations, Gitu studies history in the depths of the sea, and Shuetu is deep in the earth. The man continued to say that these 3 academies are the heirs of ancient clans with deep traditions and power, and no other academy can match them. But the most powerful of all of these is Keelan. After all, it is she who studies the magic of spirits and the world, respected by most students from noble families. Gitu is inclined towards secrets and archaeology, because in the past, there were events in the history of civilization that existed to this day and lie underwater, which is why the students there are the most erudite. And in most cases, graduates become disciples of the church. Shuetu is located deep underground, and the history of humanity is located there. And the academy's style is martial, and it is the most mysterious academy of all. The man added that you can also find old machinery and equipment there, but few people use them. When asked why they are not used much, the man explained that it is about resonance, because in addition to techniques, there are also secret arts, and to use them, you need a strong resonance. In other words, it's called recognition. After all, when a person receives recognition, they become their own in the magical world, and objects worship them. Shen Ye, listening carefully, wondered what exactly was called recognition of the magical world. The man began to explain that the magical world was a realm of a source of power that was used to distribute everyone's sphere of power. But the boy was still far from that, so the organization prepared several simple techniques for him. Shen Ye returned his gaze to the worthless books in his hands. But some techniques caught his attention, and he asked about the chrysanthemum technique, and learned that with the help of this technique, he could create hallucinations for the opponent. Then the guy became interested in the divine fist technique. Mr. Qian said that during the excavation, one of the workers heard a voice. He worked so hard that the technique fell out on its own. He explained that this happened because when a person approaches an object, he himself chooses whether the person is suitable for him or not. After explaining all this to the guy, he told him to choose one technique, because you don't need to know everything on the exam. Seeing that among all the techniques, only the divine fist was green, he discarded all other books except it. The man said that he had good taste because it was the strongest technique of all presented, and in fact, he had no right to give it to him. Until suddenly the guy asked if it was possible for a person to grow from 2 stars to 5. And for this, he immediately received a reprimand and words telling him not to spread nonsense. After that, the man advised the boy to master this technique because if he did it, it would be very easy for him on the exam. After a while, the man said that he had enough training for today and told him not to forget about the banquet. After some time, the guy received a message from Yao Manui, who said that she had found information about the rapist and was waiting for him in the arena. Walking to the arena, the boy saw an elderly man asking him for money. Trying to find something for his husband, the boy began rummaging through his pockets. He only had to find a change, which he immediately threw into the bowl. And just as he was about to leave, he heard a strange sound behind him. Shen Ye saw the coin he gave fly past his head. But with the help of the flowing moon technique, the guy managed to dodge the blow. And the man noticed it immediately. Realizing that the man was not old, he said that he was shameless because he only knew how to attack people. Suddenly, using another rare technique, he saw an invisible blade behind the man. That's why when the man was about to throw him, Shen Ye was already ready to strike and was able to dodge the attack. The man realized that he could see the blade too. Sitting on a pole, Shen Ye recalled that he had given him alms, and he was attacking him in return. In response to his words, the man said that he didn't train at all, but instead looked at girls from noble families, and immediately realized that he was talking about Zhao Mingyue. Suddenly, he received a message that he had a successful breakthrough and had received a new rating in the magical world. Shen Ye, having already realized that this man was from the Luo family, told him everything he thought about their family, and he added that he was not surprised that Zhao Minui wanted to leave their family. Hearing his words, the man smiled and said that he never thought that their family would be disgraced by such a weakling. And immediately after his words, he found himself right next to the boy and pushed him away with his hand. But in a moment, he saw the boy behind him and realized that he was using an illusion. But while he was recovering, Shen Ye had already used a thunder strike against him, and immediately after that, they both landed on the ground. And without wasting any time, Shen Ye used the heavenly shadow. This greatly surprised the man, who did not expect that a boy at such a young age would be able to hide in the shadows. But each time he was even more surprised, because the next time, the guy used a frostbite. The man, who at first didn't understand how the boy could push him away so easily, saw that his body was freezing, and opening one eye, he asked the boy why his characteristics were both high and low. The man started muttering something under his breath, and the boy heard it and asked what he was saying, and said that he was under the protection of Kunlun, so he shouldn't even try to harm him. But in the end, the man said goodbye to Shen Ye, and immediately after that, he disappeared from the boy's field of vision, and he only saw a bright whirlwind in front of him, which was rapidly approaching him. But eventually, the whirlwind abruptly disappeared, and the boy thought he was really gone. Suddenly, he saw an airship in the sky, followed by a bright light. This bright glow was the man who, as soon as he got on board, said they were going to the Gold Coast to rest, and said they would not do business with other families. But one of the subordinates said that if they didn't give Zhao Mengyu's husband, their family and their business would suffer. For his words, the man was punched in the face. The man said that since they started running the Luo family, they have become like ants. And immediately after that, he added that now they even dared to destroy Shen Ye, the smart guy, thereby ruining the lives of Zhao Mengyu and the entire Luo clan. And after these words, the man abruptly disappeared from the ship, as quickly as he had appeared. When he went outside, the man was still under the impression of the battle with the boy, who had incredible abilities at a fairly young age. After all, he knew that such people had not existed in 500 years, and this interested him very much. So he left the boy without completing his task, so he decided to observe him and his development for now. But the man also felt that he needed to support his granddaughter, Xiao Mengyu. After all, they belonged to the Luo clan, and could not allow others to look down on them. A few minutes before the mysterious old man launched the helicopter, another strange event occurred. Shen Ye kept hearing sounds from the arena and didn't understand what was causing them, so he couldn't stand it and decided to go into the arena and saw Xiao Menwei there, who was improving her skills. As soon as the boy entered, he immediately felt the terrifying energy of the blade, which he really liked. With the help of improving his skills, he could see that Xiao Menwei's strength had not changed at all, because although her technique was powerful, it was very difficult and required a lot of strength. As a swordsman, she still doubts her path, but she will only gain recognition in the magical world when she finds her own path. Reading this data, the boy did not understand what kind of magical world this was. A few minutes later, Xiao Menwei approached him and apologized for keeping him waiting, and said that she had learned new information about the Skin Flayer. She told Shen Ye that he used to be a high-ranking member of the Archaeological Society, but a major event occurred during one of the important expeditions. She continued, saying that during archaeological work, he broke the seal and released an unknown creature, which led to numerous casualties. And the next time, the man appeared in the role of a murderer. Xiao Menwei also added that nothing is known about his life, only that he had a wife and daughter who died under strange circumstances, and their bodies, which were all covered in scars and wounds, were found in the sewer. The sewer where the bodies were found was near a continent ruled by a small nobility, who after a while were also dead. After learning this information, Shen Ye wanted to know the details. The girl sadly replied that the sealing ritual was of a higher level, so she was unable to access the information. But she added that he should be careful in any case, because they would soon find out that he was taking the exam, and they would come for his soul. Shen Ye said that he would listen to her words and thanked her for the information. Suddenly, the girl wanted to say something, but she received an unexpected phone call. It was an aunt that the girl didn't really want to talk to, and Shen Ye could see it from the expression on her face. And when the girl hung up, Shen Ye asked the upset girl what happened. She explained that her family was calling her home because her engagement was coming up soon. When he asked what happened to her parents, she explained that her mother had died, and after her brother's death, her father had fallen into a coma. Dissatisfied with this injustice, Shen Ye did not want to leave it so easily, but the girl understood that she had no other choice. Shen Ye, trying to help her in some way, invited her to dinner to introduce her to the head of his organization so that she would join them and not be under the control of her family. Xiao Menwei, who knew that her relatives hated him very much, asked if he was afraid of incurring their wrath, but the guy was determined and wasn't going to give up, and also said that he had met an old grandfather from her family. Xiao Menwei, looking at the guy who seemed very young and weak to her, but she didn't understand why he was so bold. She couldn't help but pay attention to his gaze, his appearance, and how he behaved in the battle with the Ripper. But Xiao Menwei still thought he was very gentle, so she asked where exactly they were going to have dinner. Shen Ye, confused by her question, because he didn't expect her to agree so quickly, said that he didn't know yet and suggested that she figure it out later. The girl was annoyed that the guy invited her without knowing where, to which he replied that he was very sincere. Xiao Menwei said that she was not the kind of girl who went on a date with just anyone. And suddenly, someone called her again. It was her grandfather who wrote to tell her to leave the arena. Remembering that Shen Ye had already met him, she assumed that her grandfather was in trouble. So she ordered the boy to stay inside and said she would return to him soon. Embarrassed by her behavior, Shen Ye assumed that he had asked her out too abruptly, as he had no experience with girls. Meanwhile, the girl tried to meet her grandfather as soon as possible. Suddenly, she saw a bright light behind her, which meant that her grandfather would come to her himself. And the next moment, this radiance completely enveloped the girl. The girl heard her grandfather's voice, saying that he finally agreed to help her. Suddenly, he handed her the blade that belonged to the divine Lo, and looking to the side, she saw an airship flying past her, and looking at him, she thanked her grandfather for believing in her. Shen Ye, who couldn't bear to do nothing, noticed that her whole body was burning. The girl told him not to worry and explained that she had met her grandfather, who wanted to look after her, and also passed on the blade technique to her. Shen Ye was glad that not everyone in the girl's family cared about her. The next moment he realized that the old man was her grandfather, but he didn't have time to ask anything because the girl started asking him about dinner. And after his strange answer, the girl started laughing very loudly, thereby causing the guy to misunderstand. Not understanding what was going on, Shen Ye asked if he had said something wrong. Stopping laughing, she said that every participant had to attend the banquet anyway, so they would go to dinner together anyway. Having completely forgotten about the banquet, he realized that he really shouldn't have invited her, and now he didn't know what to do. But in the end, they decided to go to the banquet together. Shen Ye, who had never seen Zhao Menyu's expression like this before, remembered that she was still quite young, so it was still a familiar expression for her. And after that, they went to the banquet on the guy's motorcycle, which the girl really liked to ride. Shen Ye, who was trying to follow safety, didn't understand why the girl liked it so much when he drove fast. And after a while, they arrived at the banquet venue. The first to meet them was Mr. Qian, who did not expect to see the two of them together. And while the girl wasn't listening, he praised the guy for already asking the girl out and not listening to his excuses that it wasn't what he had in mind. But after that, he said to put the jokes aside and told the guy to be more careful. As soon as he opened the door and they stepped inside, all eyes were on them. He saw how people put on a smile on their faces, but in reality, they would never look at someone like him, because he was not their equal. Mr. Qian said that today he has a chance to improve his grade, because now the children of noble families go out hunting. Shen Ye couldn't help but think about it, because in his head he had a picture of all these bodies that had become victims of their games. So he wondered what would happen to him if he killed them all. Mr. Qian, knowing how much the guy likes to fight, because even at their first meeting he fought with his fists, said that the heads are also here and he won't get away with it. Suddenly, walking even further, they saw incomprehensible activity in front of them. It was the heir of the Wang family, Wang Jian, who, holding a boy who was much lower in ranking than him, challenged Shen Ye to a fight. Suddenly, a beam of Zhao Menyu's sword flashed over his head, cutting off his hair. Ignoring the boy's reaction, she reminded him that Shen Ye was currently fighting her, so in order to engage him in battle, he would first have to overcome her. While the boy was looking for something to say, the others present discussed among themselves how quickly the blade ended up in the girl's possession, because no one noticed it. An acquaintance of this guy told him to forget about Shen Ye and look ahead. Looking at the rating, which showed that Shen Ye had 2 stars, the boy did not expect that he would end up under Zhao Menyu's wing. Looking closer, the guy saw that the girl was one of the 5 strongest, almost on the same level as him. The guy, interested in the situation, pushed the guy away from him, and this greatly angered Shen Ye, who could barely contain his emotions. Meanwhile, the boys continued to bully the poor boy, who could do nothing to them. As soon as he got tired of having fun with him, his teammates approached him and asked him to call the medics. Suddenly, Shen Ye heard a question being asked of him, and the girl wondered if he was from the Shen household. The girl said that she had heard a lot about him, and it seemed to her that these rumors were true. Shen Ye, not understanding who she was, immediately heard Mr. Qian's words that she belonged to the Song family and did not understand what she had forgotten here. The woman continued to talk about how his uncle had recently spoken to her about a matter. When he asked what the matter was, the girl recalled that as a child, he really liked to tame dogs, and recalled that the girls from her family were bitten by their dog. This news could not go unnoticed by journalists, who immediately began recording and photographing Shen Ye. Not understanding why he was being accused of letting the dog go when, on the contrary, he had protected the girls, he said that he did not remember anything about the incident. And he said that when they left the family, they were so poor that they didn't have money to support the dog. And on top of that, he got sick recently, and the Shen family didn't even give them pills and kicked them out. To which the girl replied that their family did not have such problems, and they could afford the pills. Surprised that they didn't know about his illness, Shen Ye noticed that they didn't know everything about him. Mr. Qian was pleased with the boy's answers, as he was able to catch Ms. Song, who believed that the boy was still training dogs, which was impossible due to his injury. After that, the girl decided to ask him if it was true that he had dropped out of high school and was going to take the exam to enter the best university. She said that she could help with this because her family is very influential, but for this, he must fulfill one condition. She told him not to contact Song Qingyun from now on. This news again did not go unnoticed by journalists, who considered the guy an impudent person who was lucky that the Song family was giving him handouts. So in order to shame the girl, he said that he would agree to stop communicating with the girl without any problems for the sake of a pass. And to his great surprise, the woman remained calm and said that the pass would now belong to him. But Shen Ye immediately added that in the condition of being away from Song Qingyun, he would need her help. He asked her to give him her photo because he doesn't even know her face. This surprised those present so much that some thought he had Alzheimer's. The guy who was going to fight Shen Ye said that he was lying because they had seen each other since childhood, and after learning that he didn't remember what happened to him at that age, people began to assume that he really wasn't involved in the incident with the girl. Shen Ye suggested that Miss Song forget about their contract, because the woman had no benefit from it. The woman continued to stand, realizing that there were only two possibilities. Either he really didn't remember, or he was lying to show his indifferent attitude towards their family. When asked if he really didn't want to keep her support, she reminded him that she was the aunt of these girls. Shen Ye awkwardly replied that he didn't know her nieces, and suggested that she forget about this conversation. But adding that she had an excellent reputation and many opportunities, he asked the woman for help. The guy started talking about all the people who had recently died, and he asked to find out what happened to them. So he asked if she knew who was causing all this trouble, and saying that tens of thousands of lives were at stake, he said that she had more opportunities and could learn more information, so he asked her to do so. The girl, realizing that the guy was just taking advantage of the situation, said that Captain Lo's sister was dealing with this personally. Seeing Zhao Minui in front of her, she congratulated her on her engagement and asked why she was with Shen Ye then, to which the girl calmly said with a smile on her face that she was not engaged. Trying to protect the girl, Shen Ye said that the woman trusted gossip too much and said that it was impolite to discuss her engagement in public. But he also added that the woman is right that they are investigating and that they are even having some success. And he said that we can't talk about them right now. These words made the woman change her expression. Mr. Chin, realizing that this could end badly, reminded the boy that he was playing with fire. Suddenly, one of the men spoke up and said that the daughter of the Luo family was very noble and wise, so she wouldn't talk to just anyone. The man added that since she was still young, she didn't know all the family routines, but added that she was indeed engaged. The woman recognized her husband as Luo Erlan and asked on what occasion he had attended their banquet. Ignoring her question, he turned to Zhao Minui and asked why she didn't follow his order and return to complete the engagement, to which she replied that she was preparing for an exam. The man said it was a family matter and ordered not to argue with Miss Anne and ordered her to follow him. But the girl was able to dodge and asked where he was going to take her. The man, clenching his fist, told her to agree to the engagement. The girl asked if her grandfather and father had given their consent to this, and thinking before she spoke, she asked if he had asked her permission. The man, continuing to speak calmly, said that the head of the family knew about all this, and her father was in a coma. Zhao Minui decided to publicly ask how old her fiancé was. The man, unable to bear it, grabbed her hand and told her not to do anything stupid anymore. Zhao Minui calmly said that grandfather did not agree, and father could not say anything. So who gave him the right to decide her fate? And after that, the radiance of the holy blade of Lo appeared in the air. At this moment, Shen Ye noticed that her assessment had changed, which meant that she was confidently following her path and would no longer deviate from it. Meanwhile, the man showed his blade to the head of the family and said that if she did not obey him, he would be forced to use it. In response to his threats, the girl immediately used her blade, and the impact was so strong that the man did several somersaults before crashing into the wall. The girl calmly called him a greedy and evil guy who holds a sacred weapon but can't even parry a single blow, and who makes decisions without the consent of the clan head. And immediately after that, she added that he was not worthy of using it. Therefore, the girl asked the sword itself if he wanted to go with her and become her ally. And immediately after her proposal, the blade emerged from the man's hand, signifying his consent. After that, the girl already had 2 swords with her. After that, everyone paid attention to the ranking. And in first place were now 2 people, Nanggong and Zhao Minui. Everyone present believed that this was due solely to her family's sacred weapon, but only Shen Ye understood that this was not just because if she had not reached the grade of saint, then the sacred weapon would not have accepted her. And this rating depends not only on personal strength, but also on equipment, resources, potential, and even will. Mr. Qian told the boy that if the blade recognized her, then she would now become the head of the family. But in order not to upset the boy, the man hit him and said that this family had good resources, but he had reached 2 stars even without them. After saying that it was all through his efforts, Shen Ye began to think about Mr. Qin's reaction if he found out that he actually had 5 stars. After Zhao Minui became the head of the clan, she decided to speak openly, and the girl, without wasting time, immediately started talking about their investigation. And looking at Miss Song, Zhao Minui directly said that the culprits of all these deaths were people from noble families ruled by the Song clan. Everyone present, upon hearing the girl's words towards Miss Sun, immediately began to whisper among themselves. It was clear from the woman's expression that she was barely holding back her anger, but she calmly asked the lady to keep her expressions to herself. But the girl was not going to keep quiet and said that it was all Song Qingyun's fault, who refused engagements with many families and covered it up by saying that she was in love with Shen Ye, causing hatred for him in other families. And showing her evidence on the phone, she said that she spared no effort or money, which meant that people's lives were worth nothing to her. Shen Ye immediately picked up on her words and began showing everyone present the evidence from her phone, but asked those who were afraid of blood to turn away. Journalists, realizing what a sensation this would be, immediately pointed their cameras at the phone screen. But they would have been able to prove nothing because all their recordings, equipment, and camera were in flames. They immediately contacted Miss Sun, asking not to be punished and saying that their records had been lost. Ignoring them, the woman continued to talk about how her evidence was fake and how everyone knew what an angel her niece was. Her words were immediately supported by other people from noble families, saying that the girl could not have fallen in love with him because he had nothing. For his part, Shen Ye said that influential people have long learned all the techniques of training consciousness and resonance in order to seize more power. And this once again confirmed that money and resources rule the world. And after that, Shen Ye adds that he thinks they can't even be called human. One of those present, who also belonged to a noble family, asked how he dared to express himself in such a way. This man was from the Zhao family, who told Miss Anne not to worry about this little boy's words, because she wasn't worth it. But as soon as he challenged the boy to battle, a sword flashed in front of his face, shattering his glasses, signifying that the battle was over. The girl, standing calmly, said that Shen Ye had not finished yet, thereby blaming them, adding that they had no upbringing. Suddenly, there was applause. He introduced himself as a 4-star newcomer, Niu Jiqian, who had heard a lot about Zhao Menyu's strength and congratulated her on her second-place ranking. While Shen Ye was thinking about what a bad name it was, Zhao Menyu asked the guy why he was going to fight her if he knew what her rating was, to which he replied that children from influential families are not afraid of challenges, and having overcome them, he can get a higher score. Meanwhile, Shen Ye looked at him carefully, and suddenly saw the silhouette of a snake behind his back. And within seconds, he saw a full-grown, poisonous snake wrapping itself around the boy's body. Realizing that no one else could see the snake, and Zhao Menyu would lose, he said that he could not fight it because they had not yet finished the battle themselves. At that moment, the man, realizing how many influential people there were, didn't understand why they weren't saying anything about the snake, until he suddenly realized that everyone would be happy if something happened to them. The guy, getting this, said that if they didn't even dare to fight him, then they'd better apologize to Miss Sun. Suddenly, Shen Ye turned his attention to his card, which was now called Death Row, because he had committed crimes against several influential families. Realizing that even the sign cursed him, the boy admitted defeat. And immediately after that, nothing prevented Niu Ziqiang from competing with Xiao Minui. But immediately after that, the guy said that he would not let him compete with Xiao Minui, so he would be his opponent. Meanwhile, the girl looked at the guy strangely because she understood that he would not be able to overcome her. Meanwhile, Niu Jiqian laughed because he had never seen a rookie with 2 stars challenge a person with 4 stars. And after that, he honestly said that such trash was not even worthy of competing with him, because the energy alone would scare him. Shen Ye wasn't even going to think about the words because he knew that only a snake would attack him. Therefore, while observing the snake's movements, he used the Thunder Fist. Everyone else present didn't understand what the guy was doing, and others who had also seen the snake finally realized that he too was able to see it. In the next moment, the girl herself realized it too, but she didn't understand how he managed it. At that moment, Shen Ye's eyes lit up with a magical glow. This could not help but be noticed by Mr. Qian, who realized that he had awakened the magical world. Niu Ziqiang still couldn't believe that the boy could see Shu He, because only those with magical eyesight could do that. Therefore, he decided that it was time to attack and finish this battle. At the same time, trying to distract the boy from the snake, Niu Ziqiang lunged at him with a punch. But Shen Ye, using another technique, not only dodged her punch, but also dodged the snake's punch. And with the help of a frostbite, the boy pushed the snake back up with his foot. People who did not belong to noble families did not understand what was happening with the battle, but one thing was clear to them, that the boy would win. After all, the noble families were very dissatisfied. Only now did Zhao Menyu realize that the guy had awakened his magic gaze, which was why he didn't let her go, because she would have lost immediately, because she couldn't see the spirit. Meanwhile, the boy asked the boy what he could do without his snake. Having nothing to say in response, he simply called him arrogant. And, turning the stick in his hands, he reminded me that he was in 4th place in the ranking and asked who he was. Meanwhile, others couldn't help but notice how powerful the energy Niu Ziqiang possessed was, even sucking them in. At that moment, the boy pointed his weapon directly at Shen Ye's body. All his friends immediately wanted to go help him, but there was nothing they could do about it. But the next moment they saw that there was no blow, because the boy had put his hand in front of him in time. The guy didn't understand why he put all his strength into the blow, but didn't get any results. But the fact that the boy had now grabbed him by the stick surprised him even more. And after that, Shen Ye easily lifted him into the air, holding him by his clothes. And he immediately tried to break free, telling him not to touch him with his dirty hands. Continuing to hold him, he said if he took one more step, he would tear his head off. Seeing Shen Ye talking to the snake, he ordered it to bite Shen Ye. Realizing that the guy himself couldn't always see his snake, he realized that he had received the rating with the help of the resources of his noble family. Meanwhile, the boy still continued to order his snake to bite him, realizing that Shen Ye would not be able to do anything to him in front of everyone. But unexpectedly, the boy received a blow to the face, which knocked out his tooth. He, continuing to hold it, said that it was a blow for the girl he had fought with before. Seeing that the snake was still approaching him, he again ordered it not to move, otherwise he would kill its master. Meanwhile, the man, despite his dire situation, began threatening the boy, saying that he would destroy all of his friends and family. Meanwhile, Shen Ye received a message that all conditions had been met, and now his divine fist had greater power. So he immediately decided to test him and hit the boy again. His friends looked at this situation with joy, because they would have liked to do it themselves. And after a while, the boy's face swelled up so much that now even his own mother doesn't recognize him. And looking at the crazy eyes of the guy who had just entered the taste, he understood that he would finish him off. So now the boy, coughing up blood, was asking for help. But all the nobles present stood motionless, continuing to watch their duel. This was partly beneficial to them, because if Shen Ye killed him, all three academies would unite to punish the boy for his actions. But the woman was not heartless, so she promised herself that she would support his father so that he would become the head of their family after his death. After all, his main mission now was to die at the hands of Shen Ye. Meanwhile, the boy, being prepared for his death, suddenly heard Shen Ye's sharp laughter. Calling the boy an idiot because he thought he was going to kill him, he ordered him to look around to make sure no one was helping him. And he, in front of everyone, voiced their thoughts that if he killed him, everyone would not care, because he would be punished for this, and by doing so, he would wash away the shame of all the noble families. Turning to the man who had recently protected her, the woman ordered him to make money so that Shen Ye would be silent. And so this man entered the arena. He said he was from Keelan Academy and praised him for his excellent fight, and said he would achieve great success. Not expecting that someone thought he would kill the guy, Shen Ye received a message that the duel had been interrupted. Meanwhile, Miss An gave the boy a pill so that he could survive until the exam. And at the same time, everyone received a message that time was up, and all final scores and awards for newcomers were being distributed. Zhao Menui also received her reward, which was the image of a holy blade. She received an artifact with which she will gain more strength by performing teamwork. Shen Ye also received the artifact Unwavering, because despite how many times he was on the verge of death, he did not give up for anything and received this name. And he also got the Flesh card, which means he can take up to 3 hits before dying to become suitable meat for others. And after that, everyone received an item necessary for surviving the exam, a burning fire that cannot be extinguished and that helps them see each other better. And then they got a message that in 3 minutes they would move to the exam location. Then the guy saw that his fire had been stolen, even before the exam started, and now he couldn't see anyone. But when he heard the boy's laughter, he immediately understood whose hand it was, who was saying that this was just the beginning of their struggle. But the guy didn't stop there and continued to say that they are born at the top, and people like him are pitiful ants who are worthless. Then he moved on to insulting others, and again began threatening Shen Ye that he would kill his entire family. Shen Ye calmly replied that the noble one knows fate and is not afraid of it, but the persistent one does not deviate from his path. After that, he decided to admit to everyone present that noble families always want to take something from others, and this time they targeted him, and the next time, someone else. These words immediately turned the common people against the nobility. Meanwhile, the guy continues to say that of course they don't have the resources, talents, and weapons that the rich do, but adding that they are not inferior and they should not tolerate insults and humiliation, he said that they have courage. And when there were 10 seconds left before the exam, he showed everyone his card, which was called Unwavering. After saying that he was not afraid of being alone and would follow his goal to the end, the exam began. At that moment, the boy who was also listening to Shen Ye's speech looked at him with a wicked smile. And the next moment, the first stage of the exam began, in which they had to come up with a way to reach the floating island below, Otherwise, the person would die. Deprived of light, Shen Ye could not understand whether this was the place of the exam. Realizing that he could do nothing without fire, the boy knew that he needed to find Zhao Minwei. But instead of them, the guy saw children from noble families with whom he had conflicts. But with the help of the flowing moon technique, he was able to avoid their attacks. After that, Shen Ye began to despise them even more for deciding to attack him alone in a crowd. But he began to hate them even more when he realized that he had been attacked from behind. Holding the spear in his body, he pushed away the boy who had struck him with a frostbite. While the boys were saying that this is what happens to those who oppose them, he received a message that he only had 2 attempts left. Then the boy realized that he had no other choice. So he called the skeleton, and as soon as his words were spoken, his silhouette immediately appeared next to them. The guys were immediately scared, feeling his deadly energy, and realized that the guy might still have some tricks up his sleeve. But unexpectedly for himself, he heard the skeleton's voice telling him to find a way to escape, because he only had enough strength to scare the boys. Suddenly, he received a notification that he had received an invitation to join Zhao Minwei's team, and having accepted her offer, he immediately became the team captain and moved to her place. Seeing the boy's condition, the girl immediately realized that he was injured. He explained that these scumbags did it, but within a few minutes the wound disappeared because it was an effect of the card. Not understanding how this was possible, Zhao Minwei explained that it was with the help of the cards she received. And finally, when the girl shared the fire with him, the guy learned that they were on the same island but in a different part, and they needed to get to the floating island where the second round would take place. And the next moment, they saw exactly where they needed to get to. Deciding to seize the opportunity, Zhao Minwei asked if he had awakened the magic eye that could see spirits. Without knowing anything about this, Zhao Minwei explained to the boy that the magical world is a source of power for the entire universe, and if he gains access to it, he will discover new abilities. Upon learning this information, he realized that a secret voice was asking him to collect weak skills, which in the end turned out to be very strong. And after that, remembering the girl's previous words about how he was very weak, he now asked her if she still thought he was weak, to which he received a negative answer. Suddenly, he saw 2 silhouettes that were enveloped in red light. So, without explaining anything to the girl, he grabbed her hand and told her to run. And immediately after that, they jumped off the island and continued moving in the air. The guy explained that there were 2 people behind them, and that's why they ran away from them. Since he felt safe from them, he decided to combine 2 useful things: get to the island, thereby completing the first round and escaping death. But to get to the island alive, the guy was going to use his motorcycle, and soon a message appeared that 2 participants had passed the first round. Meanwhile, 2 people were indeed watching them, one of whom sensed that the boy knew how to use curses, but also understood that his power was at its limits. Meanwhile, the common people could not understand how in a few minutes, 4 people were able to pass the first round. Suddenly, they heard Nangong's voice, saying that they had almost taken first place. They recognized him as the only one with 6 stars, who said he would have to try. And immediately after that, he found himself in a carriage, continuing to drink tea, which was supposed to take him straight to the island. The common people, meanwhile, had only to watch as the man traveled with his entourage. But the soldiers did not want to give up so easily, and realizing that the island was right below them, they came up with their own methods of getting to it. One of them was able to transform into a wolf, thereby being able to take one of the participants with him. The other 2 people who remained in the same place realized that they wouldn't even be able to get through the first round. Meanwhile, Zhao Minwei and Shen Ye continued to reach the island, but they had a hard time doing so due to thick fog and a lack of fire. And after a while they arrived, and immediately moved on to the second round, where they didn't have to compete anymore. After that, they received a message that a wave of mourning was approaching, and statues of deities were scattered on the island, and they must find a suitable statue and receive its protection in order to survive this wave. And with the help of fire, their fog dissipates. And soon, they saw a giant statue in front of them, but they did not understand how to gain its protection. As he approached the statue closer, Shen Ye saw its eye glowing. Immediately after that, the statue spoke and asked the girl to help lift the curse for its protection by drinking her partner's blood with him and dancing for him without clothes. The girl, not intending to do this task, asked if he could be replaced, but suddenly they received a message that it was the god of pity, which meant that he was bad. Shen Ye, hearing this, sent him away and stuck a dagger in his eye. Opening its mouth in pain, the statue asked why they had come to it at all. After that, they left, leaving the statue where it was, and it continued to wait for the next girl. Meanwhile, Zhao Minwei was worried that there was no need to talk to him like that, because they still represented deities. To which the boy replied that the gods had been dead for a long time, and these were just statues. Suddenly, seeing a dirty horse in front of him, the boy said that he liked such simple statues. When the boy asked for help, he learned that it was just a horse that could only eat grass, and he could only ask for help from its rider. And he learned that for this, they needed to show respect for him. And the inspired Shen Ye asked where his rider was. As soon as the horse was about to say exactly where, an explosion immediately sounded, lifting the statue into the air. And when the dust storm disappeared, they saw before them the people they had been chasing before. When asked why they were pursuing, the men calmly began to remove their skin. And in a few seconds, they saw that Zhao Yibin and the swindler were standing in front of them. Thinking that he had already decided everything with them a long time ago, Shen Ye did not understand where they could have come from. Suddenly, the girl who had green flames from her eyes started crying, saying that she was dead. Suddenly, the girl flinched, remembering that this was the whisper of darkness, possessed by the boy who allowed him to contact the real Zhao Yibin. He immediately reported this to Zhao Menui, who realized that they had become stronger, so they needed to escape. But as soon as they were about to do so, the rascal immediately wrapped them in red threads, preventing them from doing so. Immediately after that, she opened the mouth of the rascal and ordered him to return to his master. But immediately after her words, the guy realized that he couldn't move. Suddenly, the girl felt something unusual. She saw how Shen Ye managed to break free from the strings and pushed her away from him. Both the thief and everyone else were shocked by this situation. And immediately after that, everything became clear. Because personal battles were forbidden here, so they couldn't do anything about it. Not expecting the exam to have such strict rules, they realized that there was nothing they could do now. And believing that they could get Shen Ye's head at any time, they disappeared. And again, feeling the thread around his neck, he saw a message that as soon as he appeared within a radius of 500 kilometers, they would sense it and be able to move to him. Immediately after they left, the girl excitedly asked the boy if he was hurt. Shen Ye understood that they were protected now, but he didn't know what would happen in the next round. To which the girl replied that they should move on to him quickly then. She explained that the rules and objectives of each round were unknown, and therefore, it would be better for them to move on early and prepare for the attack. As soon as the guy was about to move on to the next stage, he was stopped by the girl's voice, who said she wouldn't let them hurt him. Meanwhile, the boys asked the statue for another request, because they were only 15 years old and did not want to have their genitals cut off. But the statue remained adamant and asked for 2 pieces, saying that before, there were 4 of them. After all, he needed this to restore his strength, otherwise they wouldn't receive this protection. The guys didn't know what to do, because their families had done a lot to help them pass the exam, and they couldn't betray them. And in the end, with no other choice, they decided to do it. One of them, lacking the strength, asked the other to help him cut it off. Just as the boys were about to do this, Shen Ye appeared and hit the statue with a frostbite. Throwing the statue away, he said he was fed up with their perverted tasks that required flesh and blood. Suddenly, Shen Ye, hearing Zhao Menui's voice that she had found a suitable statue, immediately ran towards them. At this moment, one of the boys realized that the purpose of this exam was not to satisfy all the statue's desires, but to find the right statue. Meanwhile, Shen Ye had already arrived at Zhao Menui, who was standing in front of the statue. She chose it because it had something in common with the statue in the form of a sword with a bird sitting on it. Therefore, the girl immediately bowed to the statue and asked him for protection for them. But after receiving no response, Zhao Menui assumed that she was out of work, which made her very upset. But suddenly they saw the statue's sword shine. Shen Ye realized that the girl should have spoken not to the statue, but to the sword. After that, Zhao Menui decided to listen to his advice, and now turned to the sword for help. And immediately after that, they saw the sword move slightly. And the next moment, the entire statue was destroyed, except for the sword, which lay atop its wreckage. And immediately after that, his task was announced, which seemed too easy to the girl. Therefore, she immediately set about fulfilling it in order to gain the favor and protection of the sword. Only now, looking at the girl, did the boy realize that the purpose of this exam was to test the students for the amount of resonance. After all, a girl who had trained with a sword all her life had to find the very statue that was associated with the sword. This could only mean that Zhao Menyu was a true holy sword. Suddenly, the boy saw that he had also received something. He saw a message that he also received a card related to basic techniques. He received a Sword of Death that suited him and his purposes perfectly. Meanwhile, Zhao Menui used multiple swords at once, which once again showed her strength. And they received a message that their fire would soon disappear, because they would no longer need it. After that, they saw words next to the sword that they needed to find the shelter of the holy blade very quickly. Assuming that gaining status is not only about moving to the next level, but also gaining additional resources and status. So he told the girl to seek shelter, while he himself would go look for another statue that suited him. Zhao Minhui, realizing that this could be dangerous for the boy, was not going to leave him alone, and suddenly, the boy saw his enemies again. One of them was determined to kill him today. And the same thing happened to them as to Zhao Yubin and the Skinner, which meant they didn't read the rules. Remembering where he was in a hurry, Shen Ye was angry that these idiots had wasted his precious time. Suddenly, they saw a stream not far from them. The guy immediately felt that there was something inside him and remembered his liquid moon skill. And besides, he couldn't find any statues associated with himself. Realizing that he had little time, the guy decided to forget about it and find protection for himself. Suddenly, Zhao Minhui unexpectedly told him to stop lying, and she wondered if his statue was in the water, assuming she thought of it because he was staring at the water for a very long time. So in the end, he told the girl that he would try to come back quickly and dove into the water. And having received a message that a wave of crying would begin in half a minute, she therefore ordered the Holy Blade to follow her. She did this to give Shen Ye even more time. The girl continued walking until she heard someone rustling next to her. Turning around, she saw a giant monster about to attack her, but she was prepared for this situation, so she was going to use her sword, with which she cut the monster into 2 parts in one motion. But the most unexpected thing for her was that it wasn't just one monster, but many of them, walking towards the water. So, to prevent them from doing so, she threw down her sword, who chopped up all their bodies in one fell swoop. Zhao Minhui could only marvel at the skills of this sword. Suddenly, she saw a hand in front of her, pointing directly at her. Immediately after that, the girl realized that she couldn't move. Meanwhile, the hand, which had several eyes on it, crawled out of the ground even more. And immediately after that, the hand dived into the water, trying to find something there. Zhao Minhui, who was still unable to move, could only bite her lips, hoping that Shen Ye would not find her. She couldn't let anything happen to the boy, so she grabbed her sword and immediately threw it towards her hand, from which purple liquid flowed. And immediately after that, the hand screamed as if in a human voice, and the girl saw black smoke coming out of it as well. Realizing that the hand was very gigantic, and she simply wouldn't be able to handle it, the girl began to think about what monsters were hiding inside the wave of crying. Suddenly, her attention was drawn to Shen Ye's face, which had been vomiting out of the water. And immediately after that, she saw a statue in his hand, which meant that they now had to hurry to find protection. A few minutes later, they were near the riverbank. The sword spirit said that this place was not strong enough for a refuge, but now they had no choice but to stay here. After all, the fog is changing from black to red, which means that the wave of crying is intensifying. And after that, looking to the side, she asked if this tree was a divine statue. Shen Ye immediately decided to check it out, starting to ask the statue for help. And suddenly, lifting the statue, he saw something strange. He saw the statue's roots grow into the ground. And within seconds, a tree grew on the leaf that was written to them, to offer him sunlight and fertilizer so that he could protect them. Fortunately, the boy had several items stored in his ring, so he could easily get him some water. The boy watered the plant while Zhao Minhui wondered how a boy from an ordinary family could have so many skills and such an artifact. Suddenly, a new entry appeared on the leaves, informing him that this was not the right water, but that he needed water rich in nutrients. And immediately after that, he wrote down its recipe. And this was already a real problem for them because they were in a cave. But in the end, the guy had all the necessary ingredients with him. So in a few minutes, he created a special water. The guy, after watering the plant in annoyance, asked him why he didn't just say he wanted a Coke while he was enjoying the drink. And after a while, they noticed that they had managed to get rid of the water, and there was fertilizer and sunlight left. Zhao Minhui began to worry about the lack of sunlight and suggested using a candle, to which Shen Ye replied that it should be something impermanent, like water. And in a moment, an inscription appeared on the sheet about insufficient brightness. He didn't understand why it said not enough instead of lack of sun. And having understood something, Shen Ye began to call the tree pleasant words and glorify it. Zhao Minhui, embarrassed by this situation, asked the guy to stop. But when I saw that in addition to the water, the sunlight had already been crossed out, I didn't understand how Shen Ye did it. Meanwhile, the boy was proud of himself and realized that he only had fertilizer left. But his confidence quickly vanished once he read that fertilizer meant he had to create a poem about the moon. The boy had enough talents, so he immediately began to recite the poem, enchanting not only the tree, but also Zhao Minhui. And after that, A smile appeared on the statue, and it itself asked to take it with them. Shen Ye, taking her in his arms, did not understand how she could protect them, but their thoughts were interrupted by an unexpected noise in the cave. It was a giant monster whose arm had recently been injured by Zhao Mingyue, and while they were trying to figure out what kind of creature it was, it had already destroyed the cave where they were. But unexpectedly for everyone, the girl's sword prevented him hitting him. Shen Ye praised the sword for its bravery, but the girl remained vigilant and ordered the boy to look at the ground. Turning around, the boy really saw something rapidly approaching him. This is the creature that Zhao Mingyue had recently encountered, which was now trying to destroy him. But unexpectedly for himself, he was helped by his statue, which ended up in the monster's mouth. Shen Ye, frozen in place in shock, did not understand how the tree was able to switch places with him. The statue, said to be precise, he is his replacement. And immediately after these words, the color of the statue changed to black. Continuing to hang on the monster, the tree asked Shen Ye to give 1 drop of blood so that they could swap bodies without any problems. And after a while, the monster fell motionless to the ground, and the skeleton, deciding to take a chance, asked the boy to put the monster in his ring to regain his strength. Shen Ye, while fulfilling his request, could not help but remain unnoticed by Zhao Mingyue. The guy, trying to think of something, said that he likes to collect insects, but the next moment they forgot about it, as they saw that the girl's sword had shattered, which was very bad. And when they saw the living monster, they realized that the sword simply could not cope with it. While they were thinking about what to do, Shen Ye felt that he could not move, and at that moment, the monster's hand grabbed him. But this time, the tree was able to switch places with Shen Ye, and when he saw the monster's condition from the statue's attack, the boy praised it. Meanwhile, Zhao Mingyue was dealing with her statue. The girl heard the sword asking to be picked up. Suddenly, Shen Ye threw his statue to the girl to protect her, but throwing it back to the boy, the girl said she didn't need help. But at that very moment, the monster switched its attention to her. But after a while, the monster's eyes began to wander, as they still continued to roll over the statue for various reasons. And after a few minutes of such somersaults, the monster already had birds flying around its head with stars. And taking advantage of this situation, Shen Ye used the flowing moon technique against the monster. And before he could recover, the guy used another technique called frostbite. Zhao Mingyue also did not stay away and helped Shen Ye using her sword. Shen Ye was shocked, as he did not expect that the broken sword still had such incredible power. The girl explained that it was her fault, because with the help of her resonance, skills, and her own strength, the sword gained such power. But the skeleton intervened, telling him to send the monster back to him to feed on him. Shen Ye, not understanding why he needed all this, finally fulfilled his request. And this again did not go unnoticed by Zhao Mingyue. And now the guy was telling her nonsense about how, in addition to beetles, he liked to collect giants. While the guy was checking his cards and noticed that new information had appeared on them, the girl realized that the guy was no longer even trying to convince her of his lies. And the next moment, they received a message that the crying wave had already arrived, and those who did not have time to find the statue would be excluded from the exam. Zhao Mingyue quickly brought down the guy who thought they had won, saying that they needed to find a way back, which would be very difficult. And just as they were thinking about how to get out, they heard strange sounds again, and turning around, they saw 2 creatures making a rustling sound. After a while, they saw a familiar boy with a wolf. Shen Ye immediately asked Zhao Haoyu what happened to him. Without answering his question, they were glad they had found Shen Ye, because one of the candidates had tried to kill them. His words greatly worried the boy, because according to the rules, killing candidates is prohibited.